News.
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's just gone 6 o'clock. Very good to see you. Wednesday, the 8th of November. You're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster here on GB News.
And here's what's leading the news for us this morning. Tensions within Labour are at a high point as shadow frontbencher Imran Hussain has resigned in order to, in his own words, strongly advocate for a ceasefire in Gaza. Catherine Forster in Westminster with the latest.
Yes, we've had a number of shadow frontbenchers come out and call for a ceasefire, but late last night, the first shadow minister to actually resign from his position as Labour tensions over Israel and Gaza grow.
That comes as anti-terrorism police warn that recent events overseas are inspiring violence on Britain's streets. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
And 1 month on from Hamas's attack on Israel, we have a special report on a British family still waiting for news about their missing loved ones.
With the DNA, they confirmed that Nadav and Yam, they are murdered at the house. And my sister and the 3 kids basically kidnapped.
Prince William admits campaigning against climate change is an uphill battle as he announces the winners of his Earthshot Environmental Award with a stark warning.
The last year has been one of great change and even greater challenge. A year in which the effects of the climate crisis have become...
I will issue a warning now, a stark warning, that sport will be at 6:20 this morning.
Be prepared. I may be here at 6:20.
OK.
In the Champions League, Manchester City win, Newcastle lose, Celtic really lose, and the greatest goalkeeper of all time with the biggest hands has his statue unveiled in Newry in Northern Ireland today.
See if you can guess who that is. Paul and I in total agreement who that goalie is.
And we'll be asking, is there any sign of some sunshine? It was a glorious sort of autumnal day yesterday, wasn't it? Let's find out from Alex Burkill what's in store with the weather today.
Good morning. After a wet and windy start, many of us will see something sunnier this afternoon, but also some showers. I'll have more shortly.
Now, look, I'll tell you a wee thing. If you're sitting this morning and you just fancy talking to someone, talk to us, gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet or X-File or whatever it is on @GBNews as well. Be in touch.
OK, our top story this morning, divisions in the Labour Party as frontbencher Imran Hussain has resigned from the shadow cabinet over Keir Starmer's position on the crisis in the Middle East.
Hussain, the shadow minister for the New Deal for Working People, wrote to the Labour leader last night saying he was deeply troubled by rhetoric on Gaza. He now plans to strongly advocate for a ceasefire.
Well, all of this comes as the leader of Burnley Council and 10 other councillors have also resigned from the party as tensions in the community are high.
In other developments, over the past 4 weeks, more than 1,350 allegations of terrorist activity have been reported to a UK counter-terrorism hotline. That's double the number of calls that police would expect to get. They blame Israel's war on Hamas.
Well, in Rochdale, police are being forced to stand guard as their local Cenotaph has been vandalised again.
Let us know if you've got an experience of that. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner has defied calls for a ban on the pro-Palestinian marches through London this weekend. Mark Rowley has said that the march could only be banned in extreme circumstances, and the law provides no mechanism to ban a gathering for such a static protest.
Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. Good morning to you, Catherine. Let's start by focusing on Labour, shall we, this morning? We've been on resignation watch for a little while, and here we are, the first casualty.
Yes, that's right. It's taken a month from the attacks on October the 7th, but very quickly tensions emerged within Labour over Labour's stance on the Israel-Gaza conflict. We've had lots of calls, about 18 shadow frontbenchers have called for a ceasefire. Labour mayors Sadiq Khan, Andy Burnham, Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar have done the same, despite the fact that that is not the position of the leadership. We've also had about 50 local councillors resign. But late last night, just after 11 o'clock, we got the first resignation from a shadow frontbencher on this issue. Imran Hussain, he is the Labour MP for Bradford East, and he said he was standing down because he wants to be able to passionately campaign for a ceasefire in Gaza, and he cannot do that in his current role as a Minister for New Deal for Working People. So bad news for Keir Starmer, who has, since becoming Labour leader, done quite an incredible job of presenting a largely united front and rooting out anti-Semitism, which was such a massive problem under Jeremy Corbyn. But it is very clear that there are deep divisions within the Labour Party over the Middle East. Keir Starmer has given unequivocal support for Israel, but increasingly has focused on the need for Israel to abide by international law. And he, like the government, like the United States, is calling for a humanitarian pause. That's very temporary. And what many people in Labour are calling for, and what many people want, including the General Secretary of the United Nations, is an actual ceasefire. So Keir Starmer likes to make out that this is sort of everybody's coming from the same place, in that everybody wants a pause to the violence. But many people in Labour are...
Well, Catherine, there's a couple of other things I want to run through with you that have become apparent as we wake up this morning. The Cenotaph in Rochdale, which I believe has since been repaired, but, you know, what is going on there? And then that leads to this terror hotline that the police have double the amount of calls, because people seem to be, quite rightly, when you look at those two events together, on edge.
Yes, exactly. So Free Palestine was daubed in black spray paint on the War Memorial in Rochdale, and great concerns about what happens in central London and the Cenotaph this weekend on Armistice Day, specifically when the pro-Palestine protests are set to go ahead, as they have every weekend since October the 7th. And running alongside that, the number of calls to the terror hotline doubling in the couple of weeks following October the 7th. So real pressure on the Metropolitan Police and on the security services more broadly. The current terror threat level is substantial. It's possible that might be raised, but it hasn't yet. There was a Cobra meeting held yesterday in Whitehall. Oliver Dowden, the Deputy Prime Minister, chaired that, with the police talking about how events in the Middle East impact the UK. But a very difficult time for the police, for security services, who are really, really stretched now. So Mark Rowley, with the protest on Saturday, is currently saying they don't have sufficient grounds to ban it, but he is assuring us that it will not disrupt the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock. But many people certainly very concerned about that.
OK, Catherine,
thank you.
Thank you. Well, staying on all of the issues in the Middle East, the Palestine Red Crescent Society has accused Israeli forces of targeting a humanitarian convoy in Gaza City.
So this is 5 trucks we're talking about here carrying life-saving medicals to health facilities when it was hit by fire. The 2 trucks were damaged and a driver was wounded. Israel insists the only targets are Hamas terrorists who killed 1,400 people on October 7th.
But fears are now growing over the fate of those kidnapped by Hamas. Let's speak to our West Midlands reporter, Jack Carson. He has the story of a British family who have been devastated by the incidents of the 7th of October.
When that message came, that was me, gone.
Messages and calls Halit couldn't imagine ever having to answer. On the 7th of October, Hamas terrorists entered parts of southern Israel and went from kibbutz to kibbutz, killing 1,400 Israeli people. 240 were taken hostage by Hamas. Amongst those families devastated by the events of that day are the Goldstein Almog family. 49-year-old Nadav, seen here in the red jumper, and 20-year-old Yam had been killed. Wife and mum Chen and children Agam, Gal and Tal were all missing. Just weeks before the attacks, 11-year-old Gal and 9-year-old Tal were captured dancing in this home video. Halit grew up with Hen and her family, but has been living in the UK for 30 years. She met me in Birmingham and introduces me to Omri, who's in Israel campaigning for his family's safe return.
So you're just about to meet Omri Almog, who is Chen's brother. Omri, myself and Chen all grew up in Kibbutz Gevim.
He describes the aftermath.
That day on October 11, after my parents came back from Bulgaria, with the DNA, they confirmed that Nadav and Yam, they are murdered at the house. And my sister and the 3 kids basically kidnapped. And they were missing for 9 days, and then they moved from missing to kidnap. And right now we know they are alive. But we're not sure where. We're not sure if they get medicine, they get food, they get clothes. We don't know anything else. This situation is a horrible situation. We have nothing to lose. This is the situation that I have now, because it's a broken family. The family is broke. We need to bring back whatever left from the family.
Living in Walsall, Halit wasn't aware of the attacks until a call from her mum revealed the nature of what was happening. She describes the moment she found out Hen and her children had been taken hostage.
You're really, really sad, but then you're really, really happy that they're not dead. There's hope. Suddenly there's hope. And even though you're conflicted with, you don't know what's going to happen now, a part of you is thinking, they're alive. You know, they're alive now.
Now, working with Omri and others, she's helping spread the Bring Them Home Now campaign internationally. Her mission here in the UK is clear.
My objective is to try and reach the Prime Minister. Ask if they, just hear Omri's story. It's one thing looking at what's going on, and it's another thing listening to a personal story of somebody that his sister is missing and the anguish And just to remember, people need to remember that these are children. These are children, these babies, these toddlers, the disabled people. They're humans. They didn't do anything.
Whilst the grief will not ease for some time, the hope for the safe return of the 240 hostages lives on. Jack Carson, GB News.
That brings us to 12 minutes past 6. Thank you for your time and attention this morning. It's been brought to my attention from page of the Times today that British women are the joint heaviest binge drinkers in the world. This is from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, in other words, the OECD, and they compared alcohol consumption right across 38 member countries. Now, what I would like to say, and here's what they term as heavy, Isabel. Binge drinking amongst women defined as having at least 6 small drinks in one session, in any one session, with 1 in 4 doing this at least once a month. Now, you telling me that a woman under a lot of stress and, just looking for a bit of release has 6 drinks once a month and she's an alco?
I think 6 drinks is an awful lot.
Do you?
Yeah, I really
But if
do.
you sat down to a session, I mean, if you were going out with friends and it was a Friday night or whatever it is, would you not expect to have...
I probably wouldn't have... If I had 6 drinks, I'd be ill for a week.
6 glasses of wine?
Probably, yeah.
You could do it?
I'll probably be very ill if I drank that much. But maybe I'm just a lightweight. I'll have 3 and that's a night out.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally think women drink much more frequently than men.
Well, that's different, and I think that's where we're, I think that's the kind of European approach. They'll drink with every meal, they'll drink every day. Whereas
no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about is 4 o'clock too early to have a drink, or 5 o'clock, or whatever it is. I mean, most women I know feel stress more than men, and they...
Well, maybe that's something to do with you.
What?
Maybe you're the common denominator in there.
I'm the common denominator, or I just bring out the best in people and they want to celebrate.
What we British women do, compared to a lot of other women around the world, is not drink all week, save it all up, see our pals at the weekend,
and then have 6
get
drinks.
Bladdered, and then end up vomiting on the side of the road in a miniskirt, whatever it might be. And you see it, don't you, when you're on holiday, all the Brits abroad. We don't have a healthy relationship with booze. That's why I advocate having a drink every day, making it a habit, letting the children be familiar with booze, creates that kind of,
Well, they're saying here they don't like the idea that once a month you as a woman would have 6 small drinks, right, in one session. And I just think, I really just would love to see the science on all of this. If drink is bad and killing us and pickling our brains and doing all this, then ban it. Stop moaning about it and talk...
Please don't ban it.
No, please don't ban it, exactly. I mean, that's why I just think this is... What do you expect people to do? What are people turning into? They can't take drink, they can't take drugs.
No, I think...
But how do people diffuse themselves from modern society and the pressures that they're under, the financial pressures, the social pressures, everything...
But do you not think it's odd that we British people can't drink in the same way as anyone else? Why is it that we do this binging thing? As you're not really a drinker, so I don't think you really get a vote in discussing it. I don't think you have a normal relationship with booze, but I do think...
But I used to be a barman. I was a barman for 7 years.
Why do we binge in this country? I don't understand why we binge drink so much and other countries don't.
Well, I think people are getting their knickers in a twist about this personally, because my relationship with drink and seeing people and growing up was seeing people having a bottle of stout or a vodka and Coke or whatever it was, and then singing. And singing was a great thing in Ireland, and sociability was a great thing in Ireland. And people say, when they go to Ireland, they say, best time I ever had. I had a brilliant time. I would put it to them, they had a brilliant time because they were offered a lot of drink and they take a lot of drink. And it's a release. My worry is, what I'm really saying here is, how do people then release their tensions without having that 6 drinks once a month? And if you don't have the 6 drinks once a month, would you be a right bore? Would you turn out like me? I mean, I don't drink. I mean, people think I drink.
You have other vices, don't worry.
I have people come to me and say, oh, remember we went on that pub crawl, remember we did this, oh, I got sloshed with Eamonn one night. I've never been sloshed in my life. But anyway, I'm so full of fun and exuberance that people think that I'm a drinker, but I'm not.
Okay.
The time is 17 minutes past 6. You may have thought I was a drinker talking about all of that. But anyway, you tuned in to Eamonn and Isabel on this Wednesday morning on GB News.
Here's a reminder of our top stories this morning, and we're focusing on tensions within Labour. They're at a high point. First shadow frontbencher has resigned. Imran Hussein is now saying he's going to strongly advocate for a ceasefire in Gaza.
Now, this comes as anti-terrorism police warn that recent events overseas are inspiring violence on Britain's streets. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
Prince William admits campaigning against climate change is an uphill battle as he announces the winners of his Earthshot Environmental Award.
Parents are being urged to make sure their children eat breakfast before they set off school in the morning. It's a good idea. I think, child, you should, before you starve to death today, have a bit of breakfast. Have a bowl of cornflakes.
Send their kid to school.
I mean, this really just, you know, this is certainly not children's problems. This is parents who don't actually advocate this and insist that this happens or show an example with all of this.
Well, recent research has found that teachers think a third of their pupils are starting the school day hungry.
Yeah, but are they hungry? There's a difference between not having breakfast and being hungry. I mean, I've read studies recently which says that breakfast is an unnecessary meal, that, you know, we shouldn't really eat until about midday. But there's a charity in Lincolnshire which is busting myths about breakfast, and local school children reckon they have got it cracked.
Will Hollis has the story.
Brilliant job.
The most important meal of the day. Omelettes on the menu, meaning these kids have to break a few eggs.
And then it becomes scrambled egg, and that's fine. We can eat scrambled egg, it's absolutely fine. We don't want to waste our food. I don't like scrambled egg. Well then, good job we're making an omelette then.
Year 3 and 4 from Cherry Willingham Primary School in Lincoln are cooking their way towards a healthier morning. It's not just a free meal, but a life lesson for Theo and his classmates.
We've just been learning, like, what are the ingredients you have to have for omelette, and you just need eggs.
Ruth is a volunteer for the Lincolnshire Agricultural Society. She says Brits need to learn where food comes from and how to cook it, starting with children.
It is important, it's a life skill, because we all need to eat. That's how we survive.
The students here have plenty to eat, but a recent poll of teachers from around the country found that they think about a third of their class don't eat before lessons start. Good, huh?
So we've got cereals, we've got breads, it's just all...
The cost of living is making it tougher to keep on top of a healthy brekkie. Tom teaches Year 4.
As a school, we do things like a breakfast club, so we try to make that more readily available. But what happens before the school day, we really try to make sure that the children have hands in those decisions so that they can go home and say to mum and dad, oh, I'd quite like some toast, I'd quite like some fruit.
Lincolnshire Agricultural Society is a charity, bringing farm-to-fork lessons directly to the community. Susie is education lead.
Some of the students maybe not have had breakfast in the morning, so getting them educated so that they can replicate it at home, that something as easy as making an omelette made of just one ingredient is really simple and nutritional.
A third of Britain's food is grown in this county, including loads of the cereal that Harley eats at home.
I normally have Weetabix, and then after that I have waffles. It gives you loads of energy, and it gives you loads of energy to move.
Kids that miss out on breakfast fall behind fast. Breaking down why it's needed might be the way to feed a few extra mouths. Will Hollis, GB News in Lincoln.
Now, this and the whole idea of food banks and what you should give kids going out to school in the morning is something that's going to dominate the programme today. So there you are. Get in touch, give us your views about that. But I personally think that cooking skills are something that should be written into the curriculum, and that's what you should be taught at school. Much more of use to me than ancient Greek.
Yeah, I'd say in my experience, my fussy eater is much more willing to eat food that she's been involved in cooking because she's seen what's gone into it, she understands what she's eating, whereas if I just present a meal, it's like, oh, what's that foreign-looking broccoli? So I think it might help them to be more adventurous, help them to get more nutritious food into them if they do learn to cook.
So could Poppy, how old is she?
She's 5.
Bit young to do an omelette, isn't it?
Yeah, although I think she could with supervision. I mean, she's chopping onions and things with a knife. She's, you know, she's quite good. Her older brother, not so good.
So do you get them involved, and does that make food more palatable to them? Should you worry about fussy eaters? Should you worry about breakfast?
Definitely.
Should you worry about food banks and who uses them? It must be a big worry if you go to a food bank. GBviews at gbnews.com. Let's get the weather update. Here's Alex Burkle.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Alex Burkle here again with your latest GB News weather forecast. There will be something sunnier to arrive later on, but at the moment it's a wet and windy picture for many of us. Outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, and even across parts of Scotland we have some sleet or snow. Most of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through the morning, but lingering across parts of the east and southeast of England well into the afternoon. Drier, brighter weather following in behind for many of us, but a scattering of showers across western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. In the north, temperatures for some will struggle in single figures. Further south, we're looking at highs of around 13 or 14 Celsius. As we go through the end of the day and overnight, the showers will become more widespread. So across more parts of England and Wales, we're going to see showery outbreaks of rain through the night, perhaps towards the southeast, staying dry with some clear skies, and also across parts of northeast Scotland. Here, it could turn a little chilly, possibly a touch of frost for some places. Elsewhere, a bit milder, but it will still be a little chilly first thing on Thursday morning. Through Thursday itself, then, a showery picture across the bulk of the UK. The heaviest, most frequent showers will be towards western parts where we have those brisk westerly winds, also some heavy showers in the far southeast as well. Otherwise, the driest, brightest weather will be towards eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. Here, there should be some decent, fine, sunny weather to be had. Temperatures for many likely to be down a degree or so compared to today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Lots of people with views on how much is too much to drink, and people talking about what a great start to the day, watching Isabel and Eamonn, what a giggle. Perhaps the common denominator, Eamonn's face. And this one's saying, you know, one drink is 125 mils of wine. I think most people think it's 175 or more, so I think having 6 drinks in one session isn't that much for a lot of people. Great show, says Lise.
Lise, I agree with you. I don't think it's that much. Certainly not in Ireland, it's not.
Different, like 6 tequilas and I'd be on the floor, 6 margaritas.
But this is the whole point. You see, this is my education, my lifestyle and yours. You're a bore, right? So you go to your house and I could just imagine, how much drink do you get? You get a glass and a half there. You go to my house and I don't even drink it. It's just have another one. Have another one. Here's another one, Isabel. Oh!
I'd rather live my life than yours.
But Isabel, look, love, I'm not saying there's some nice people that are bores, right? And I think you're a nice person.
Oh, but you have no idea.
No idea.
No.
Have a drink.
No.
Prince William and his Earthshot. I bet you they all have drinks there.
Wow, I could tell you stories.
Bet you they
told you stories.
What? Are you going to tell me during the break?
Yeah, I'll tell you in the break.
Tell me during the break.
Yeah.
Anyway, Earthshot after this. So what happened?
Carol Middleton, yeah, I was telling you, Sheila. Oh, they're still on.
They're still on.
Gosh.
They all heard what you said.
I thought they'd taken the break.
Yes, take the break. What do you
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best.
Bellissima.
You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sunday, the 29th of October at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us. From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
A little mixture. If you went to bed last night, you didn't get the Champions League results. Paul Coit with those.
Yes, Borussia Dortmund beat Newcastle. We said when Newcastle lost to Borussia Dortmund the other week, it's a reality check, and it does seem to be, because they drew the first game and then they thrashed PSG, didn't they? Paris Saint-Germain at St James's Park, and everybody's thinking, this is it. This is Newcastle going to be going to the Champions League. A reality check. They've gone from top to bottom. They've got PSG in Paris to play, and also they may not even qualify for the Europa League if they end up fourth in that group. Well, they've got it. If they get third out of the four, so if they get third, they get Europa League. But if they end up fourth, they're out of Europe altogether.
I'm looking at Man United from this point of view as well. I mean, I just thought you automatically got through to
No. It's only the third place. So
I'd say this about Newcastle: the Champions League is a learning process.
Of course it is.
Every year you learn how to play it and how to get the right results and all that.
Yeah, they look tired as well.
Yeah, Celtic hammered. What can we say? I mean, that's really bad. If Brendan Rodgers was to do something there and advance Celtic, it had to be in Europe.
Absolutely, but Atletico Madrid, I mean, they got a draw. They got a draw with them, Atletico Madrid, at home, and then they go over there and 6-0. They got absolutely hammered. So they did have a sending off. They did have a player sent off after 23 minutes. And also Manchester City 3, Young Boys of Bern 0, and a hat-trick from Erling Haaland as well. So that's pretty much the results from yesterday.
Yeah, very, very good. OK, my friend, we'll just break off from sport and we'll bring you up to date with the latest news headlines as the time creeps towards 6:30.
Well, tensions within Labour are at a high point as shadow frontbencher Imran Hussain has resigned to strongly advocate for a ceasefire. In his own words, that's in Gaza.
That comes as anti-terrorism police warn that recent events overseas are inspiring violence on Britain's streets. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
And Prince William admits campaigning against climate change is an uphill battle as he announces the winners of his Earthshot Environmental Award.
OK, we looked at last night's Champions League. Looking ahead to tonight, Paul, what have we got?
Well, it's Manchester United tonight, and, it's FC Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Copenhagen away. Need to win. It's a must-win for Manchester United. I think they will win. I think you'll be all right tonight. Are you a little nervous about it?
Well, we didn't win at home last week.
I think you'll be okay. I think
you have to be nervous about every match.
Yes, absolutely. You never know what you're going to get.
I can't remember the last time I wasn't nervous about a game.
There's that fine line between nerves and excitement. I always find, Eamonn, and I never know which one I ever am.
I know.
And Arsenal against Sevilla is the other one.
OK. Let's go back in time now. A man who never really got the recognition in Europe that he probably would have deserved. We believe certainly one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time, and that is
Pat Jennings, the great Pat Jennings. Yep. Pat Jennings played for Spurs, and he went to Arsenal as well, and then just the greatest goalkeeper I've ever seen.
How was he able to go from Arsenal to Spurs?
Well, the other way. It went from Spurs to Arsenal.
Spurs to Arsenal. How was he able to do that, bearing in mind the rivalry?
You know what? It's a very bizarre thing, because back in '77, Pat was at his peak, and Keith Birkinshaw came in, the Spurs manager, and he had a choice, and he's thinking, now, what do? I've got Barry Daines, who's this young goalkeeper, and he decided that Pat Jennings wasn't the future for the club, which was unbelievable, and Pat was let go. He was let go by Spurs.
And then he went on to have how many good years at Arsenal?
Oh, it's plenty of years, played 200-300 games. But the weird thing is that Pat did not want to go, and he didn't want to go, and he ended up talking to Ipswich, he spoke to Aston Villa, and in the end, Arsenal came in, he said, well, you know, I'll go there. But the greatest goalkeeper I've ever seen. He's got a statue then. It's at Newry Town Hall, and it's unveiled at 11:45 this morning. Dignitaries from all different clubs in Northern Ireland and Arsenal and Spurs are going to be there. It's a beautiful statue, and I think we've got some pictures of that. Whether we're going to do that now, I'll show you a little bit later.
Let's see the statue, and they've got his hands cemented into the base of the statue as well. Now here you have hands.
It's big. This is a big statue,
Yeah.
so that's
But it was big hands. They were big hands as well, and Pat was known for these one-handed saves and things he did.
That was because of Gaelic football, because of the Gaelic game. It wasn't actually the size of his. Although he had big hands, the ball he would actually. It was like a juggler. The ball would rest down, and it was the way he would hold it and caress the ball. But just the greatest keeper and the loveliest man. He was unwell.
He's the loveliest man.
He really was, and he was taken unwell at the Spurs game, and we were sort of thinking, oh, yeah, is Pat okay? He's fine, and he's going to be there, and there was no way he was going to miss the unveiling of his statue, which is in Newry.
Do you know, looking at his hands there.
Look at that, yeah.
When Pat was a youngster, when he was 7 or 8 years of age, his parents, when they lit the fire at home, they would send Pat. They would say, Pat, go out and get a handful of coal there.
Yeah.
So they would fix it up. Great guy.
You'd shake his hand, it would completely envelop your whole arm. He's a fantastic man. We wish him well.
Hands
so it's
like
great
spades.
news.
Paul, see you again at 7:20. Okay, thank you very much.
Right now, the time's 6:33. Let's take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning. And John Butcher is to be appointed as the next Chief Constable of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, following approval by the Northern Ireland Secretary. Mr Butcher, who had been serving as interim Chief Constable, has more than 35 years' experience as a police officer.
The former Prime Minister Boris Johnson allegedly wanted to be injected with COVID-19 on TV to calm public fears. An ex-aide has told the COVID inquiry the claim by Lord Lister came in a witness statement to the inquiry. He also confirmed his former boss had said letting the bodies pile high was preferable to another lockdown.
Ivanka Trump will make an appearance later today at the Manhattan courthouse where her father's business fraud trial is being held. The case claims the Trump Organization inflated the value of its properties over a period of years.
The Earthshot Prize, it happened last night in Singapore. We'll be speaking to Kinsey Schofield about all of that next.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
my new teeth. It's your new teeth.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
joining us now in the studio, we've got Nikki Hodgson. She's the author and broadcaster, and Chris Sakabusi, who is being described as many things.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a ray of sunshine, an absolute cult. That's what you are. Guys, we want to talk about not so much a red carpet event, but a green carpet event last night, Nikki. And you see the sort of people, the A-listers that have turned up for the Earthshot Prize. Hannah Waddington, Kate Blanchett there as well. Somebody called Jacinta Ahern, who I've never heard of.
She's the New Zealand PM. Former Prime Minister of New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
Oh, right, I've interviewed her.
Yeah.
It's the context.
I didn't recognise her.
Yeah, I know.
She looked a bit too glamorous there, didn't she?
Yeah.
Who's Freya Riding?
She's a pop star.
Oh, is she? Oh, good. What do you think, Nikki? About the calibre of people and the Earthshot Prize.
Well, I think it's amazing that it gets the press it does. You know, obviously, Prince William's behind it. He's behind it, and, you know, he's got all these connections and he's got the right kind of PR people to bring them in. Obviously, it's good for the stars. It's good for their cachet, right, to look like they're interested in saving the planet. So it's kind of a win-win in that regard. But,
let's go to Kinsey Schofield for her take on this. She's been observing this, and, you know, Nikki was saying there, Kinsey, Prince William has got the contacts, and if he can't bring the big names to that green carpet, nobody can. Good morning.
Oh, dear.
Oh, I love it when things...
Technology lets us down.
Wouldn't it just be lovely to be in
mind.
here one day and things just worked? Everything would work. But there we go. Are you going to kick it unplugged? Unplug Kinsey? What are we going to do with Kinsey? We'll try and reconnect to her. Right, that's another waste of time. Right. So let's go to which story do you want to go to?
Should we focus on this big row, really, that's ongoing, Chris, about the Cenotaph? It's been vandalised again in Rochdale. It's now been sorted out and being protected by police, but there are lots of worries about Armistice Day and, you know, the police pushing back strongly, saying, look, you know, there are laws in this country to protect the right to protect.
And you speak as an ex-forces man.
Yeah, so of course, you know, Sunday, 11th hour, it's a very important day for anybody that's served. In my time, it was the Queen and country, but now the King and country. And we've got certain traditions, and we would hope that anybody, whether born in Britain or have recently come to Britain, would respect our traditions as we think about all the people that have laid down their lives so that we can enjoy the wonderful life that we have. But it is a legal protest, and I'm not in line with the Home Secretary who thinks it's some sort of illegal rave. You know, it's a legal protest. I'm sure the Metropolitan Police have been in liaison with...
Look, never mind all that legal protest business. Is it a wise thing to be doing? Do you respect what they have to say? Are they doing it the right way? Have they
protesters? Yes, of course. I mean, the protesters... I don't like the label pro-Palestinian, although being pro-Palestinian is obviously not being pro-Hamas. For me, if I was on that march, I'll be pro-life. Any life. I've got beautiful young children. And for the idea that my young children, by the luck with me in the UK and not over there, it's just devastating. So, yeah, the idea that we sit down and we're cheering for war, no, stop it. Young children, old people, ill people, blown out of their beds. Stop it. Stop it. So, yeah, I'm definitely pro that, but not about pro-Palestine. Certainly anti-Hamas.
Well, that's very powerful, and a lot of people identify with what you say, Chris. But, Nikki, the fear is that other people, a lot of them ex-forces, are very supportive of the poppy and what it stands for, may take to being somewhat on the defensive side about this, may take a lot of offence to all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I mean, Johnny Mercer, who's the ex-veteran, the Forces Minister, has sort of come out and said, please don't start any trouble. basically. You know, it might be very stressful, it might be very tense, you might feel very offended, but nothing will be solved by there being a clash on the day.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we've got to remember that, you know, even during the First World War, there were, anti-war protests. 2 days before we went after the Germans, there were 10,000 people in Hyde Park. And we never hear about that.
When you don't hear about that, that's quite interesting.
No. So,
that's because the media was very much controlled,
of
obviously,
course,
in those days.
Of course. So, it's actually important that we do have pro-peace protesters.
Interesting. Very good
around.
point you raised there. Now, let's kick the screen here and see if we've got Kinsey Schofield there. We were talking about Earthshot. It's because we've gone all green here and we're firing it up on solar flares or something. I don't know what we're doing, but can we hear you? Hello there, Kinsey.
Yeah, every time I log on to GB News, it says that GB News has saved like 1 billion miles in carbon footprint. So we are, I can't wait for Prince William to acknowledge us, okay?
You're going to be at the Earthshot Prize next year. Or we are.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. We're doing our part too. But you were talking about all of these credible celebrities on the green carpet, but we can't forget those 15 finalists. They are all being rewarded in a sense. They receive a year of technical support and resources from Prince William and Earthshot to help them accelerate their work. All of this incredible work to, minimize our footprint, environmental footprint. But the 5 official winners, they took home £1 million last night to expand their innovations. Highlights include a Hong Kong company named BRST. They developed a cleaner way to make batteries for electric cars, and India's S4S Technologies. They help farmers preserve their crops and fight food waste. So these are incredible, incredible innovators, and we've got to celebrate them as well.
Projects, amongst them cleaner lithium batteries. So he comes in and they do make a difference. Marine wildlife there as well. Solar power. There's a scheme to develop solar power dryers and processing equipment to enable smallhold farmers to preserve crops. And when you look through what there is there, it is stuff certainly worth cultivating.
Absolutely. And one of his messages that I thought was so important, especially right now, especially listening to your panel, he says that hope does remain. Hope does remain. And I thought, that could mean anything. He's talking about climate change, but it's such an important message for today. The Daily Mail describing it as, I think, Will's mania, because people were so excited to see him over there, and describing him as fun, fearless, intelligent, and compassionate. And I think that he's a great representative for your country, and I love to see it.
Kinsey, I've got to ask you, since you bring all that up and hope does remain and guarding the planet and whatever, just a final question on his brother, Prince Harry, and using a private jet to fly to Las Vegas to see a Katy Perry concert.
Oh, and by the way, how lively and alive and fun did Prince William look at this event, on the green carpet, on the stage? And how bored does Prince Harry look at a Katy Perry concert? I mean, my gosh, just the look on his face says, I wish I had my old life back. Am I wrong? He looks absolutely miserable while Prince William is thriving.
Kinsey, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much. Sorry for all the technical issues at the beginning there. Appreciate it. Should we stay with royal matters? Because, of course, it was a big day for the King yesterday. And, Chris, viral tweets yesterday saying that the King was a little bit out of touch with his crown there during a cost-of-living crisis. Is that fair?
No, I think it's unfair. It's totally unfair. Look, we are the United Kingdom and we've got a monarchy. And, yes, he's got a £3 billion crown on his head. It's a lot of money. But, this is our tradition. This is our heritage. There's a lovely phrase that I like to use. The past is for reference, not for residence. The King doesn't live in the past. He referred to the past. He referred to his mother. But we've got to embrace our past and then move forward with our future. And he was talking about the future. And he was talking about his government and the plans for his government. And of course, actually, the King's speech is the Prime Minister's speech. So I think the guys who are hammering him are off mark there.
Okay. Well, guys, we're going to talk about the government. We'll say goodbye to you two. We're going to have the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay. We're going to be speaking to him right after this short break.
Thank you.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Are Queer, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this? It's my new
It's your new
t-shirt.
I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie, second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with you three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
Well, welcome back. We're speaking now to the Health Secretary, Steve Barclay. Good morning to you, Secretary of State. Morning after the night before, all eyes on the legislative agenda being set out yesterday by His Majesty the King. And you want to talk specifically about smoking and vaping this morning.
Well, that's right. It's about taking long-term decisions for a brighter future, and that includes tackling the biggest single cause of preventable illness and death. Around 64,000 people die each year because of smoking, and we know on average most smokers try 30 times before they're able to quit. In fact, most smokers don't want their children to smoke. And most people start smoking before the age of 20. 4 in 5 smokers start by the age of 20. So that's why the Prime Minister set out a very ambitious programme to tackle smoking, to address that single biggest preventable cause of illness and death, 1 in 4 cancers due to smoking, but also respond to the growing concerns I know many of your listeners around the way vapes are being targeted at children in particular. So that's why we're also going to have tough measures to better protect children from the sale of illegal vapes.
Such an ambitious plan that was set out yesterday. It didn't even make the front page of this Tory supporting paper, The Sun, although one corner of it does, says PM plots vape tax, and lots of concerns that this could, backdoor to taxation on vaping, which helps a lot of people quit smoking.
Well, the consultation targets and discusses a range of issues. Particularly, the biggest concern raised with me is the way a lot of these vapes are marketed in ways that look like sweets. They're branded, they're packaged, they're marketed in a way that is particularly designed to appeal to children, even though it's illegal to sell them to children. And also, there's real risks around counterfeiting, around the sort of growing risks with those vapes. So that's what we're consulting on. Of course, tax is an issue for the Treasury, and that's looked at in the usual way. But the consultation is focused on how do we better protect children from the risk of vapes, but also recognise that for people that smoke, vaping is a better alternative for adults. But above all, smoking is the biggest cause of cancer, is the biggest cause of preventable illness and death. And it's a very bold, ambitious programme, taking those long-term decisions for a brighter future and building a smoke-free generation. But tackling vapes marketed at children is a key part of that.
I'm fascinated by all of this, Health Secretary, and it all lands on your plate. It's stuff for you that you have to deal with one way or another. And I'd like to turn to alcohol now. Front page of the Times today, the headline is "Gulp. British women are the world's biggest binge drinkers. And this is a report from the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. And they are basically saying that binge drinking amongst women in Britain is when they have at least 6 small drinks in one session. And 25% of people do this. They have 6 drinks once a month. Now, that doesn't sound an awful lot to me, but apparently that is the road to oblivion. That is the road to no town about all of this. But here's my point to you. So you say to people, you can't smoke, you can't vape, you can't drink. What are people supposed to do in terms of releasing their tension and their pressures from this awful life that they have to live, this pressurized life, and the whole idea of financial restraints that they've got, and the worries of war around the world, and all sorts of things? I just sit and say, is it really the worst thing? And I ask you, as the health secretary, you may well say to me, Eamonn, it is really the worst thing. If somebody has 6 small drinks once a month, that may well be the road to oblivion. What's your view?
Well, you're right, Eamonn, and the point is there's a difference between smoking, which is a real outlier. There's no low level of smoking, which is low risk. But there's a difference between that and people being able to enjoy life, and that's why we've taken a very different approach. Smoking is an outlier, but we have taken a different approach. For example, the Labour government in Wales is banning having bags of crisps with your sandwich as part of a meal deal. The Labour mayor in London wants to stop adverts for strawberries and cream and things like that. And I think there's got to be a degree of proportion here. So I'm not for sort of a nanny state ban and tax approach to many of those other issues. It's important that we have good information to people, because people want to do the right thing for their health. They want to be informed. They realise that their health is their most precious asset. So good information to people, make sure they're informed, make sure they're able to take personal responsibility and choice. We're also looking at innovation. So we've got a pilot at the moment that's just closed in Wolverhampton, looking at how we incentivise healthier behaviour. Because again, many of us want to be healthier. Many of us want to, for example, have physical exercise and do a bit more in that regard. So we've had a pilot looking at how we best incentivise that. But that is different from smoking. Smoking causes 1 in 4 cancers. It's a real outlier. There's no low risk option on smoking, and that's why it is different to some of the other issues you quite rightly flag around alcohol and food. And we're taking a very different approach to smoking. But for the rest of it, it's about empowering consumers, giving them the right information and letting them decide.
People would say some of these things that we're talking about here are lifestyle choices, and that brings me on to the language of your colleague Suella Braverman, who referred to homelessness as a lifestyle choice, and criticism from a number of Conservative colleagues on all of this. I just wonder where you stand. Do you agree? Has she broken ranks with number 10 on this, or is this a pitch to become the next leader? What's your view? Is homelessness a lifestyle choice?
Well, my view in the Department of Health is particularly to reduce the number of rough sleepers, and we've already done that by a third. We are making progress, and my focus is working with the Veterans Minister, Johnny Mercer, particularly in terms of rough sleeping of veterans. We've got a programme, Operation Fortitude, where Johnny and I are working very closely together to tackle that's my point. So we're tackling rough sleeping, we're bringing the numbers down. I think what the Home Secretary was talking about is where accommodation is available, how we work with people to ensure that accommodation is used. But there's often complex issues, not least relating to health, often around alcohol addiction and other addictions, which relate to people sleeping rough. That's what Johnny and I are working on, to bring the number of veterans sleeping rough, to end that by the end of next year. We've got a clear programme with Operation Fortitude to do that. That's a key priority of us, to support our veterans. So where there is accommodation, let's ensure it's used. But above all, we are bringing the number of rough sleepers down. We've brought it down by a third, and we've got a particular priority to support our veterans, because as we think of Remembrance Day this weekend, we are very proud as a government that we want to be the best place in the world to be a veteran. And that's what, through the Veterans Minister we're absolutely committed to, and I'm playing my role as Health Minister in supporting Johnny Mercer to deliver that.
Health Secretary, we've got 2 minutes left, and one of the big items that we're concentrating on in our programme this morning is food banks and people's reliance on food banks. Some people think, some people abuse food banks, but there is absolutely no doubt that in the past few years, the need for food bank, the usage of a food bank has increased incredibly. And a lot of this concerns children. There's a report out today which says so many children go to school without breakfast. Now, whether they need breakfast or not, I don't know. I'm not an expert. Some people could go to 3 o'clock in the afternoon before they eat. What is your view on the use of food banks and our need for food banks and our dependence on food banks, and are they here to stay?
Well, I think we recognise that the cost of living pressures from the war in Ukraine, the consequence of the pandemic, has made it very tough for many families, and that has put pressure on household budgets, and that is why the Treasury has responded with a huge package of support, particularly around supporting people with their energy bills, but also support more widely. And indeed, when you and I have debated before on the programme, one of the challenges we face is tax is higher than we want, and we want to bring tax down. Part of the reason that tax has been higher is because we have been supporting families with their energy bills, with their other bills, to meet the cost of living challenge. So that's why we're so committed to targeting inflation, getting inflation down, to growing the economy, and in setting out the long-term decisions for a brighter future that the Prime Minister put into the King's speech. Growing the economy was one of the core objectives, because that is the best way that we can tackle the issue of food banks and the wider cost of living issues.
We're out of time. Health Secretary Steve Barclay, thank you very much indeed, and we say goodbye to you.
Thanks for your time, Steve. Thank you.
Very shortly.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Alex Burkill here again with your latest GB News weather forecast. There will be something sunnier to arrive later on, but at the moment it's a wet and windy picture for many of us. Outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, and even across parts of Scotland we have some sleet or snow. Most of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through the morning, but lingering across parts of the east and southeast of England well into the afternoon. Drier, brighter weather following in behind for many of us, but a scattering of showers across western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. In the north, temperatures for some will struggle in single figures. Further south, we're looking at highs of around 13 or 14 Celsius. As we go through the end of the day and overnight, the showers will become more widespread. So across more parts of England and Wales, we're going to see showery outbreaks of rain through the night, perhaps towards the southeast, staying dry with some clear skies, and also across parts of northeast Scotland. Here, it could turn a little chilly, possibly a touch of frost for some places. Elsewhere, a bit milder, but it will still be a little chilly first thing on Thursday morning. Through Thursday itself, then, a showery picture across the bulk of the UK. The heaviest, most frequent showers will be towards western parts where we have those brisk westerly winds, also some heavy showers in the far southeast as well. Otherwise, the driest, brightest weather will be towards eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. Here, there should be some decent, fine, sunny weather to be had. Temperatures for many likely to be down a degree or so compared to today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
A very good morning to you. It is coming up to 7 o'clock on Wednesday, the 8th of November. You're tuned into Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening, you're very welcome. Leading the news this morning, tensions within the Labour Party have reached breaking point as the Shadow Minister, Imran Hussain, has stepped down over what he terms substantially different views on Gaza to Keir Starmer's. Catherine Foster in Westminster with the latest.
Yes, it took a month, but we've finally had this first shadow front bench resignation over Sir Keir Starmer's refusal to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. It looks like divisions within the Labour Party are only growing over the Middle East.
Anti-terrorism police are putting out stark warnings that recent events overseas are inspiring violence across Britain. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
And our security editor, Mark White, is at the heart of the conflict this morning, which just last night saw an attack by 2 suspected Hamas rockets, I think, on Tel Aviv. Mark White with more. Mark?
Well, what those large rocket attacks last night show is that Hamas still has the capability and the determination to strike at Israel's civilian population. And while that's the case, the military will continue with its war against Hamas.
And 1 month on from those attacks, we have a special report on a British family still waiting for news about their missing loved ones.
With the DNA, they confirmed that Nadav and Yam, they are murdered at the house. And my sister and the 3 kids basically kidnapped.
All right, last night, big Champions League night. It's also going to be a big Champions League night tonight. Paul Coit across both those.
I will be. Last night, will Manchester City win again? Newcastle lose. Celtic really lose last night. And also, we're going to talk about the greatest goalkeeper of all time that's had his statue or will be unveiled outside Newry Town Hall in Northern Ireland later this morning.
And when you think about it, I presume in goal last night for Celtic was, what's his name? He used to play for Man City.
Yeah, Joe Hart.
Joe Hart.
Yeah.
I presume, well done, 2 points.
Thank you very much. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me.
But goodness me, imagine being in goals and letting in 6 last night.
I know.
You would not be waking up a happy boy.
I don't think you would.
You'd be waking up, you could say, under a cloud. Well, the rest of us, Alex Burkill has your forecast.
Good morning. After a wet and windy start, many of us will see something sunnier this afternoon, but also some showers. I'll have more shortly.
And as always, we love to hear from you throughout the course of the morning. Lots of you getting in touch about drinking. John says, I'm 75. I started drinking beer at 16 with friends in a local pub. 3 years ago, I found non-alcoholic beer. He mentions a specific German supermarket. He says, there's a lovely German beer, just 49 pence a bottle. I can function legally, does not break the bank. Perfect.
But does it give you, John, does it give you the same effect? I'm fascinated by non-alcoholic beers.
There's a big increase in them, isn't there?
Yeah, there is a big increase, which means that there must be getting better, or people must think, I'm getting the effect of this, or I'm, I don't know, maybe you have to get drunk first. And then, you know what I mean? In your life, you sort of know what being drunk
That's
is.
a good point, and then you switch across.
And then you switch across because you think, if I was actually...
I know a few people that should do that.
It's like imagination, you know, and you sort of think, I know this is what it would feel like if I was doing this for real, but I'm not doing it for real. And
Chris said, I stopped drinking 2004. It's the best thing I've ever done. My wife has never drunk an alcoholic drink in her life. We have a fun-packed life, but we don't need alcohol to give us the courage to do it.
And the reason we're talking about this is that British women have been tagged by a very credible organisation as the world's biggest binge drinkers. That's fine. You can take that attack. It's what constitutes being a binge drinker. And what constitutes being a binge drinker is 6 drinks once a month. 6 drinks in one go once a month, which I think is a bit harsh. GBviews at gbnews.com, or you can tweet at gbnews.
So our top story this morning, we're focusing on the divisions in the Labour Party. The first frontbencher, Imran Hussain, has resigned from the shadow cabinet over Keir Starmer's position on the crisis in the Middle East.
He was the shadow minister for the New Deal for working people. He wrote to Keir Starmer last night saying he was deeply troubled by Starmer's rhetoric on Gaza, and he now plans to strongly advocate for a ceasefire.
Well, all of this comes as the leader of Burnley Council, as well as 10 other councillors, resigned from the party as tensions in their communities are running high.
In other developments, over the past 4 weeks, more than 1,350 allegations of terrorist activity have been reported to a UK counter-terrorism hotline.
Yeah, that's double the number of calls to the police compared to this time last year. And the police are blaming all of this on the conflict in the Middle East.
In Rochdale, police are being forced to stand guard as their local Cenotaph has been vandalised yet again.
Yet the Metropolitan Police Crime Commissioner Mark Rowley has defied calls for a ban on pro-Palestinian marches through London this weekend. Well, joining us now is GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster. And I suppose lumping all of those stories in together paints a picture, really, of lots of tensions in the community and too much to bear, frankly, for some of the front bench now in the Labour Party.
Yes, absolutely. This conflict is now 1 month on. And of course, we had the horrific 1,400 Israelis slaughtered by Hamas, but now the death toll in Gaza has apparently, allegedly, according to the Hamas Health Ministry, topped 10,000. So I suppose it's no surprise, really, that tensions within the Labour Party that has historically had very deep-seated divisions and views on the Middle East are really coming to a head now with this first shadow front bench resignation. Imran Hussain, the Labour MP for Bradford East, wrote to Sir Keir Starmer saying he was resigning with a heavy heart. He's served on the shadow front bench for 8 years in various roles, but saying that he wants to be able to strongly advocate for a ceasefire. He thinks that's what's needed. He wants to see that. And of course, the official position of the Labour Party is, yes, they would like to see a humanitarian pause. That's very temporary. That's very distinct from a longer term ceasefire. Keir Starmer is keen to basically take the same position as the British government and as the United States in calling for this humanitarian pause. But there's many people in his own party. We've seen about 18 of the shadow front bench call for a ceasefire. We've had quite a number of local councillors resign and Labour mayors come out for a ceasefire too. So real divisions within the Labour Party, and the longer this conflict goes on, the worse I suspect those divisions are going to become.
Very much indeed. Moving on to the conflict now in the Middle East, and the Palestinian Red Crescent Society has accused Israeli forces of targeting a humanitarian convoy in Gaza City.
It was a convoy of 5 trucks carrying life-saving medical supplies, 2 health facilities when it was hit by fire, 2 trucks were damaged and a driver was wounded.
Israel insists the only targets are Hamas terrorists who killed 1,400 people. I don't know why we keep reporting this, because it's absolute nonsense that their only targets are Hamas terrorists because they're killing so many civilians. But that's what Israel says. The reality is somewhat different. Fears are growing over the fate of those kidnapped, though, by Hamas.
Well, joining us now is GBNews security editor Mark White. He's live from Tel Aviv for us this morning. Good morning to you, Mark. So, you know, ongoing fears and concerns about hostages as we continue to see these kinds of strikes like that on ambulances last night.
Yeah, I think the operative word that was perhaps missing from what Eamonn was reading out there was deliberately target. So the IDF say they don't deliberately target civilian personnel, civilians and convoys, but they do go after IDF targets, and they say they do go after Hamas targets, and they say the real difficulty that they have is that Hamas is so embedded in the civilian population that they cynically use convoys, ambulances, hospitals, schools and alike to put their fighters and indeed their infrastructure, the rocket launchers and alike, with a view to attacking Israel. So while that is the case, and they continue to take out those Hamas targets, there is going, sadly, to be a continuing Israel death toll amongst the civilian population, and that is increasing the pressure, without a doubt, internationally on Israel. I think Israel is feeling some of that pressure in the sense that Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that they would have these small humanitarian pauses. Well, I think what he's talking about are the 4-hour-a-day pauses on the Al-Asadin highway, which is the main highway from the north of Gaza down to the south of Gaza. And we saw yesterday hundreds, perhaps thousands of people on foot with their white flags walking down that highway. What the IDF say is that they are coming under regular attack from Hamas when they try to secure that highway to allow those civilians to move south. And it's clear as well, I think, by what we saw overnight, that there's still a significant capability that Hamas has, and that capability saw attacks on multiple areas on the Israeli side of the Gaza Strip, Ashdod in southern Israel, and then last night 2 very significant rocket attacks here in Tel Aviv. At 9 o'clock we rushed for the shelters as the sirens sounded. Then we weren't back out half an hour, then the sirens sounded across across Tel Aviv again with another rocket attack. And I think that just cements in the minds of the political leaders and the military here that as long as Hamas still has that capability and that determination to continue targeting Israeli civilian areas, then they will continue to push on. However messy, however horrific for the international community these scenes are, they will continue to push on with their war against Hamas.
Just try and paint a picture for us. I mean, you may know, you may not know, but these missile strikes on Israel yesterday from Hamas, Israel obviously will know where they've come from. Was it Gaza City? Was it Gaza? Where would they have been able to have the capability to do that? Or is the theory these are mobile and they can go anywhere within Palestine?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Eamonn. What's happening is that increasingly a lot of the rocket launching sites are coming from southern Gaza. Now, that in itself creates a problem because the second these rockets are launched, and that could be, and usually is from a civilian area, then Israel responds immediately with artillery fire and missile fire on that location. If it's in a school, then clearly that is extremely dangerous for the people in that area. Early on in this conflict, all of the rocket strikes pretty much were coming from northern Gaza, but now that Israel and the IDF is in there and taking on Hamas and severely degrading Hamas's capability, then a lot of the rocket launches have moved south. And the Iron Dome system is very sophisticated. It can track where the missiles have come from. It can also track the trajectory of the rockets and where they're likely to land. We know that 2 rockets landed in Tel Aviv last night. One badly damaged a house. Another landed on a roadway in the city, but no one injured in both accounts. But of course, there's always the potential for people to be injured with these indiscriminate attacks coming over. But yes, to answer your point, they seem to be shifting their tactics, the Hamas terrorists, further south into Gaza Strip, which has got to be a real worry, I think, for the civilian population in Gaza who are being asked by Israel to move south into those areas.
You know, Mark, we say that, you know, not everybody in Palestine, not everybody who is a Palestinian supports Hamas. What about people in Israel? What are you picking up? I know you're working your socks off there and you probably haven't got any time to socialise or mix with people, but are you getting any sort of impression that there is any resistance? Because we're looking at pictures here of what looks like hell on earth, to be quite honest, of what is going on in Gaza. Is there any resistance from Israeli people towards the Israeli tactics, however slighted they have been, however wrong they have been?
There's always a percentage of the population, and it is in the minority, that wants a much more peaceful approach to the conflict. But I think since the attacks on the 7th of October, and then again the people being reminded of those attacks 1 month on yesterday, and as that pause was taking place, another rocket attack targeting Israel at that precise moment, I think the majority of the population is still in favour of this war. In fact, there was a survey just carried out by a university here in Tel Aviv. The results have just come out, and that shows, Eamonn, that 63% of those surveyed want the war to continue targeting Hamas and seeing the war against Hamas as the top priority. 39% of those surveyed viewed the return of the hostages as being a greater priority than taking out Hamas. So the vast majority of people still want to go after Hamas as a key objective. Now, that doesn't mean that they are supportive of Netanyahu and the Israeli government. There's a great deal of unrest and anger here in this country about the security lapses and about, you know, what had happened in the run-up to this war in terms of what was being done to try and ensure that there could be a more sort of peaceful coexistence with the likes of Gaza. So some real questions for Netanyahu to answer going forward. But at the moment, the Israeli public seem to be behind the government and focused on the job in hand, which is to go after Hamas.
So much for that insightful analysis. I know that you have been working around the clock for a really long, sustained period for us at GB News. We do all really appreciate that. Thank you very much indeed.
Stay safe, mate. Thank you. The time, 16 minutes past the hour. Let's have a look at some of the other stories that are coming into the newsroom this morning. John Boucher is to be appointed the next Chief Constable of the PSNI, the Police Service of Northern Ireland, following approval by the Northern Ireland Secretary of State. Mr Boucher, who had been serving as interim Chief Constable, has more than 35 years' experience as a police officer. Dougie Beattie, let's go to Dougie in Belfast for the latest. Dougie, what can you tell us about this guy? Where was he before?
Well, he was in the flying squad, the Met and Bedfordshire Police. He was the Chief Constable of it. He did step into the breach here for about 3 weeks, replacing that of Simon Byrne. You remember the biggest data leak in police history actually occurred here in Northern Ireland. Although that will be a big point for John Boucher to have a look at, his real thing here will be trying to get the faith and the confidence of the rank and file officers. Simon Byrne, of course, fell because of that had gone inside the Police Federation over allegations that he had not stood by two officers that had made an arrest in the Ormer Road. He really does have a mountain to climb here to get that confidence back. And it must be thought this morning, is there going to be new management structures put into the PSNI headquarters here behind me in order to make that happen? But it is the hardest job in British policing, and there may not be a better man for the job than John Boucher.
Job that nobody wants, Dougie. Thank you very much indeed, but he has got it. John Boucher.
Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson allegedly wanted to be injected with COVID-19 live on television to calm public fears, an ex-aide has told the COVID inquiry. The claim by Lord Lister came in a witness statement to the inquiry. He also confirmed his former boss had said letting the bodies pile high was preferable to another lockdown.
You're waking up to a good few pictures in the newspapers today about this green carpet in Singapore. This is for the Earthshot prizes. It's the third Earthshot Prize awards ceremony.
Yeah, and Prince William announced 5 winning innovators for their ideas to beat climate change, ranging from solar-powered dryers to combat food waste to making electric car batteries cleaner. And he said that climate change has now become impossible to ignore.
And he's not doing it on his own, of course. He's got some celebrity names there. You saw Kate Blanchett by his side there, and there's also the wonderful Hannah Waddingham, who I love very, very much. She's a lovely, lovely lady.
Star of Ted Lasso, I believe.
Yeah, let's go to Sarah Robertson. Sarah is a royal commentator. With her take on things, the star sparkle helps a lot, Sarah, I would have thought.
Oh, absolutely, Eamonn. Good morning to you and Isabel. It was an incredible, glittering, star-studded event last night for Prince William in Singapore for his third Earthshot Prize. It was an incredible turnout. As you say, he had Hannah Waddingham, our own homegrown star of Ted Lasso. She also helped host with Eurovision this year, so she really is someone who stars in the ascendant. And there was also the Hollywood actress Kate Blanchett, who's played Queen Elizabeth I twice, no less, Sterling Brown, and we also had a video link, zoom in, of the wonderful Sir David Attenborough. So it was just incredible, really, to see all these people come together and support Prince William. And former New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, she was also on the green carpet with him last night, supporting him.
Reading that it's been dubbed the kind of conservation Oscars, except the big difference is that all of the VIPs were asked to wear either sustainably sourced outfits upcycled or recycled outfits. So you were talking about Hannah Waddingham there. She was in an outfit, we've seen her in before, by Suzanne Neville, but with an added green sash. And we have Kate Blanchett wearing a Stella McCartney sustainably sourced suit. And I think Prince William himself re-wearing a green velvet tux that we've seen him wearing at an event like this. So kind of practising what they preach, if you like.
Exactly, yes. William recycled his Alexander McQueen blazer that he wore for the Earthshot Prize 2 years ago in 2021. So that was the whole theme running through, was this theme of recycle, renewable, renew, and that was what he was very keen to stress. And he did preach, he did. This is something that Prince William is so utterly passionate about and devoted to, this cause. As he says, it's now too visible to be ignored. And so he really wanted this to resonate with people and also show that he stands by what he purports to deliver. He travelled by commercial plane, unlike his brother Prince Harry, who flew on a private jet to go and see Katy Perry in concert the other night. So, and then Harry's someone who's meant to be preaching for climate change and what have you. So William is actually putting his money where his mouth is and actually doing something visible about it and rewarding these young innovators who are coming through to try and make a difference, to come up with schemes and tools and things that we can use going forward, which he thinks is going to tackle the climate crisis, as he puts it, and make a difference in the future. But he wanted to get across this idea of hope. He doesn't want to take away people's hope. He says if people act now, things can be done, and we can avert, as he puts it, this what he's claiming is this climate crisis.
Sarah, was there anything that when you heard the awards being announced that you thought, my goodness me, that would make a difference?
Well, I liked the idea of this thing about the helping the farmers recycle, and also they were talking as well about what was going on with China and in terms of the cars. So they were saying with these new batteries, there's going to be cleaner emissions for electric vehicles, and this is something that they think China, who has now become a massive car user. So they're saying in terms of sort of tackling the countries with the big populations that are obviously using vehicles and which is increasing emissions, carbon emissions, they're saying these batteries can make a difference. So look, it'd be interesting to see.
Okay.
Who knows? But this is something Prince William really believes in. And I think being brought up by his father, King Charles, who was such an environmentalist, it's clearly rubbed off. And I think this is William's big passion project and something he's really behind and going to keep pushing.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you very much indeed for casting your eye over that green carpet and the Earthshot prizes. Thank you very much indeed. I am hosting another green project tomorrow, the Irish Post Awards, so it's green and everything.
Kind of green.
Everything's going to be green.
4-leaf clovers.
And I have an announcement to make.
Shamrock, what is it?
No, I will be wearing the same dinner jacket that I wore last year.
How eco of you. Well, there you go.
Or as my wife has said, it's all right for you. You just wear the same clothes all the time.
True.
Men have it easy in the world. You know, this man kicking.
Once again, Ruthie and I can't disagree with her.
They are. And indeed, Isabel and I are going to debut together in Hello Magazine next week. And I walked in and I was a dream for the people who were there. I just walked in with my clothes and things. Isabel took a while to get what she wanted, but could I just say, she doesn't look the way she looks today, this dowdy look, whatever it is. You were beautiful.
Well, I did feel spoiled. I did get to wear some lovely gowns, which cost more than my own wedding dress.
Do you want to tell people how much they were?
Shall I?
Yeah.
One of the dresses I wore cost £15,000.
I can't even imagine it, but I did touch it.
You did, and I said, get your hands off my dress. I felt very regal. I did feel like Princess Kate for
the difference is, you could carry off regal. The point is, you're so classy.
Oh, that's
you
nice.
come out there and you just, this was made for you. I thought £15,000 dresses.
That's where I'm at.
You need to dump that husband of yours and get somebody who can provide you with £15,000 dresses. Dear, but anyway, William, if you had a £15,000 dress, Prince William would want you to wear that for the rest of your life.
I could manage
basically.
that, that's for sure.
Okay.
Listen, a bit of a change of gear, because we're talking about food banks. Most people can't even afford food, let alone those kinds of dresses. And we're talking about whether they are a fix to the cost of living crisis or just a band-aid fix. We'll be debating that next.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I. So you want higher taxes? Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Looking at the figures on food banks and kids who are going out to school today without anything to eat, whether that is maybe, when I was a youngster, I didn't want anything to eat until I wanted it. Do you know what I mean? But breakfast was never never a priority for me, though I did get it, and I did get a cooked breakfast in the morning. And I don't know how my mother or father would have had the time to even do that. But I always had this view. We've got Steve Chalk here in the studio in Clare Muldoon, and Steve runs a number of food banks. He's an advocate of them. Clare is not. But I always remember Steve thinking, I don't believe in food banks because nobody should not be able to afford cornflakes in the morning for their kids, and it should be easy to do. And then I did this work with the Manchester United Foundation, and my goodness me, I've never seen deprivation like it in the Greater Manchester area. And I'm a convert. I help food banks in Manchester and in Ireland as well, and the need is disgusting, actually.
Yeah. Well, we run a lot of schools in Manchester, for instance, as we do around the country, and they're all in communities filled with poverty. That's what I chose to do as I set up Oasis, as you know, because we've known each other a lot of years. And the reality is, I don't think food banks are a good thing. I wish there wasn't one on the face of the planet.
But they're necessary.
But yeah, because of the poverty you talk about, I do think there are ways. We don't just run food banks now. We've learned that the problem with going to a food bank is you get filled with a sense of shame. If I go to a food bank, it's almost like I have to parade my poverty and beg to you, if you're running the food bank, to be given some food. So we've found other ways of dealing with that. We still run food banks, but for instance, in a couple of days' time in Waterloo, we're launching something which is called a community fridge. And that is about a different proposal. There's loads of food that's wasted. You know, at the end of the day, they strip the food off the supermarket shelves and it goes to landfill. And what we've done is we set up a way of getting all that food, fresh food, and then everyone can come. And it's not you're coming because you're poor, it's because we want to have a lighter footprint.
I think what Claire will say here is that Steve and the work that he does and the work that someone like myself does is spoiling people. It's setting them up not to fend for themselves.
That's a bit harsher than what I would say and what indeed my view is. Having worked in food banks in Glasgow many years ago and indeed contributes to food banks here in London, and it's no form of virtue signalling either. It's a necessary must. Charity starts at home and it's a good thing to do. However, I do think there's an enormous breakdown in society and there is no parenting now. There are the kitchens in these houses that are built that some people are renting in aren't fit for purpose. So therefore I would say, what can they do with the food, the 3-day supply that they get from the food banks? It's raising it absolutely impossible to use. So therefore there would be waste, and I just think it's a sticking plaster to society. And for any MP to stand up for a photo opportunity outside a food bank, I think is disgusting. I really, really do.
Meaning?
Well, why should they be celebrating a food bank in their constituency? Why isn't their government and the opposition government doing something more to underpin society, to build communities, to enable parents to build characters that will then satisfy society going forward, instead of this transient debate we have, this transient movement of families, this transient movement of children, which is just awful.
Steve, what about those people who'd say, I mean, you come into contact with people coming into food banks all the time, so you can dispel any myths, but there are myths, perhaps, out there that some people who come to use these would perhaps be using what small resources they have on things like cigarettes, on subscription television, that they're not being educated well to budget. And in that way, the word spoiling is the wrong word, but you're not actually helping them.
These people are scroungers, they're lazy, they ought to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, etc. All of that is said constantly. The reality is, I agree that parents have a responsibility, but society has a responsibility to work with parents rather than leave them marooned.
So where's the breakdown coming then? Is this education? Is this about the welfare state?
I think it's about the welfare state. It's about the fact that we don't level up. There is no level playing field, and we have to work harder to do that. But to the point that, you know, someone's poor and I saw them with a cigarette, or they got a colour TV.
Or takeaway.
Or they've got a can of beer. Well, the middle classes, we all take our drugs as well, do you know? And the truth is that all of this, as I'm sure Claire would agree, causes immense trauma in a family's life. And so a cigarette or a drink becomes a piece of escapism. It becomes their drug, and we all have drugs of choice. A drug is a way of making up for a deficit, isn't it? But the thing about a drug is it's never quite enough to satisfy you, which keeps you coming back. So I don't think we should be blaming people. I think we should be asking this question, how do we as a society do more to heal the gap?
And how do you think we do that, Claire?
Well, we have to start with, I would even go back to poverty. I would say poverty always perpetuates. And for me, the way out of poverty is education, OK? So it starts with the schools, but
Yes.
Are you sticking two fingers up at me?
No, I'm saying to you that that is another issue of poverty, which is technological poverty as well. You're right about schools having a big role in all of this, but then should schools have a role in feeding kids, about teaching kids about nutrition, about teaching them to cook as well?
Well, in high school, yes. Because that we all had that in Glasgow. And I was talking to Steve earlier. I didn't have a TA in my class. I didn't know what a teaching assistant was until my children started primary school here in West London. And, you know, I think that the education has changed so much that staff have to be nurses, doctors, social workers, shrinks, everything. And that's not what they went to university to train for.
And we, again, the charity that I set up, Oasis, we run 54 schools, primary, secondary schools. We've got 35,000 children in our schools. So one of the problems in our society is that as other systems have failed, the welfare state, as you put it, Isabel, schools are overloaded. So they're not just about teaching a child, they're about being an emotional...
Whereas they should be there to teach
emotional and mental health support to a whole family.
Is that about the welfare state failing, or is that about the fact that now, you know, both parents have to go to work in order to support a family, and therefore there isn't that one person at home who's able to ensure that the children are being cared for in the way that perhaps a generation ago
moreover, Isabel,
they
there isn't the family infrastructure there either if both parents have to work in order to pick up the slack. Because I don't think lock-key children, was that what they used to be called? That used to come home with no one in the house. Latchkey kids. That is such a sad indictment, because then they'll bring their friends back, they'll access alcohol or drugs or smoking from quite a young age, and that again is another breakdown. But that isn't anything to do with class.
To your point, Isabel, I was talking to a mum at one of our school gates just a few months ago, and she was in floods of tears, and she was a single mum because her husband had died. Actually, she had 3 children, and she just was in floods, and she said, I just can't cope, I can't cope, I can't do it all, I can't work. She was on a low back, I can't do all of this, I'm tired. And then she said this incredible thing. She said, Steve, I'm just not enough. And I said to her, of course you're not enough, because it's to this point. Society needs to work together, not leave you isolated to just deal with everything.
Food banks aren't the answer.
Well, there's a lot of them exist, and, you know, if you're in Belfast, the People's Kitchen is there. They need support, they need workers, and those of you who do, my respect to you. And in Manchester, the food banks that we're talking about there, funded by the Manchester United Foundation, absolutely, I'm very proud to be associated with it. Steve, good luck with everything. What do you need? What do you need for your food bank, Steve?
What we need, more than anything else, besides money always, our website, am I allowed to say that? Is oasisuk.org. We need generous people to give, little or a lot, and we need volunteers, as you just said. It's the wonderful people who are not wrapped up in their own lives. You know that thing, a person wrapped up in their own life makes a very small parcel.
I know.
We need people to get involved. oasisuk.org.
I remember, Stephen, you'll teach me the humility of all of this, but I remember as a kid, there used to be, as we would have called them in Belfast in those days, winos, who would sleep indoors. There'd be now homeless people, they would call. And we would go by and you could smell the urine and you smell the alcohol and you would, oof. And I remember my dad taking us by the collar and bringing us back and saying, you don't know what that man's story is. And he would give us some money to put in, 10 shillings or whatever it was, to then give to him and speak to him and ask. And sometimes you'd be amazed at how educated these people were and whatever. But you cannot judge a book by its cover.
No, their lives are broken down. I used to go up under the arches. When I was a kid, my mum used to let me go on Friday nights, and I used to give out sandwiches and soup that she made to the tramps tramps. Remember they called them tramps?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And I had the same experience. I mean, you know, I just couldn't believe wonderful people and their lives had broken down, things had gone wrong, and there was no one there to support them, and that's where they ended up.
That's where it is. Right. Guys, appreciate it. Good debate, and we want your views at home. gbviews@gbnews.com, or you can tweet at gbnews. Claire, Steve, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed.
We're going to take a look at the forecast now. Here's Alex Burkill with an update.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Alex Burkill here again with your latest GB News weather forecast. There will be something sunnier to arrive later on, but at the moment it's a wet and windy picture for many of us. Outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, and even across parts of Scotland we have some sleet or snow. Most of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through the morning, but lingering across parts of the east and southeast of England well into the afternoon. Drier, brighter weather following in behind for many of us, but a scattering of showers across western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. In the north, temperatures for some will struggle in single figures. Further south, we're looking at highs of around 13 or 14 Celsius. As we go through the end of the day and overnight, the showers will become more widespread. So across more parts of England and Wales, we're going to see showery outbreaks of rain through the night, perhaps towards the southeast, staying dry with some clear skies, and also across parts of northeast Scotland. Here, it could turn a little chilly, possibly a touch of frost for some places. Elsewhere, a bit milder, but it will still be a little chilly first thing on Thursday morning. Through Thursday itself, then, a showery picture across the bulk of the UK. The heaviest, most frequent showers will be towards western parts where we have those brisk westerly winds, also some heavy showers in the far southeast as well. Otherwise, the driest, brightest weather will be towards eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. Here, there should be some decent, fine, sunny weather to be had. Temperatures for many likely to be down a degree or so compared to today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Right, still to come, what festive treat is lighting up the skies of Newcastle and why?
Look at that.
Well, I thought there was no money for lights anymore. We'll be discussing this and all the rest of the day's news in Headline Makers next.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's on your teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
And Chris Sakabusi, we say good morning to them as to some of the stories and things we've been talking about that make the headlines. And one of the things we were talking about before the break was food banks. And there is this debate, guys, about whether a food bank actually encourages people to go to food banks and other food banks, or whether they're a necessary evil, or whether they just do good. Any views?
Yeah, it's a needs-must situation, isn't it? But, I mean, I do think it's diabolical that the use of them is increasing. What, 2-3 million people using them? It's kind of doubled in the past couple of years. That is so sad.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly, if you need to use them, you're going to go there. You're not going to let any sort of sense of shame stop you going there. But actually, like you said, it is a travesty in this economy.
You say the sense of shame thing, but what must it be like when you go to the supermarket and we think, I'll just get a few things, and then you look down and your bill's 78 quid or something for just a few things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what must the relief be like to bring home provisions for your family that are going to last 3 days, and you think, I don't have to find that money?
No, look, of course, it must be a great relief to know that you can feed your family. I mean, I'm not quite sure if you can say this, but like, as a bloke, the honour I have to be able to support my family gives me a sense of self-worth and dignity. So to be able to bring that back home for your family is great and is very, very important. Nonetheless, there must be that element within inside you thinking, I can't do this on my own. That actually... And what do my family think of me?
Yeah, so much pressure on so many people, and just that
single parents.
Of them. But even parents, with 2 parents, there's just so much pressure on families and on family life. I think it's incredibly hard.
On teenagers, which are just devouring machines. They just everything in the house is just devoured by teenagers.
Yeah,
just eating machines.
Should we talk about
me? I
devouring
personally
foods?
never touch. I go home. My body's a temple for the rest of it, and that's what I believe.
I know, absolutely. Yeah, straight to the gym with you, Nikki. What about drinking? Everything devoured here. It turns out we Brit women are top of the pops. Alco pops.
Well, it's a bit of a misleading headline. It says that British women are the world's biggest binge drinkers. That's not true. So British women are joint binge drinkers amongst women only with Danish women. And 1 in 4 British women and Danish women is a binge drinker. Binge drinking is categorised as 6 small drinks or more in a single session, basically a bottle of wine.
What is a bottle?
Yeah, but no. It's not just. It's only once a month. The thing that got me.
Yes, important.
Yeah, the thing that got me. If it was 6 drinks every night or 6 drinks every Friday night or whatever, but it is 6 drinks once a month, which I think really.
Well, I'll admit I do that. I think lots of people probably do that. I mean, the other thing as well is that British men. 45% of them are binge drinkers. So actually, I just think this piece is a bit misogynistic, I'll be honest, because this is the interesting bit is how much men drink, not how much women drink.
But maybe we already knew that.
Yeah, maybe we presumed it.
Do you know, I'm not aware of men drinking. You see, people don't drink the way women drink, I'm telling you. And men save it for like sporting events. You might be right about football or whatever, but say, Chris goes out and he plays a round of golf or whatever. I don't know if you're a drinker or not, mate, but you probably have a shandy or a pint of something lager afterwards. Absolutely. And it seems to be appropriate, whereas women can go, it's 4 o'clock, and they break open the fridge, and the gin comes out, and whatever. Women need it to stable their nerves.
The women that you come into contact with, so maybe you're the...
Well, all the women I come into contact with, they'll either need a fag or a gin.
That's what I'm saying,
or a wine,
it's you.
or they'll need both. I do watch them. I watch them with fascination. You know how they.
Well, when I first sort of had to, Gates basically got divorced, and I had to do my cooking. Now I remember I'd open up a bottle of wine, add some cooking, drink a third, have a third with my meal.
Yeah.
And then you can't leave that on its jack, can you?
No.
The rest of the evening, I'd sip away with the last.
Yeah, nice.
Before I knew it, every night I was drinking a bottle of wine. Oh, I better stop this one.
Yeah.
But that makes him.
Wine is the worst because it's open. It's not like anything that's kind of portion controlled is easier, right? But then there's mini wines are so expensive.
Are you actually telling me that 6 small glasses is 1 bottle? Is that actually correct?
Well,
Because I'm quite shocked by that.
1, 2,
in which
5,
case my measurements are...
well, our home
I've got these large goblets, you see, and I've had 6 large goblets of wine. I do on the floor.
You do have a large goblet.
Oh, stop it!
No, I'm just thinking.
All morning I've been wanting to hit you, and now I've done it. I feel better. Right.
But
correct.
No. I think this is very, very important. The thing is, Nikki, I was looking at you there, and you were actually.
You've got a large goblet as well.
Yeah, you were looking forward. You were looking forward. You can't really see the harm in the drink that you take, and I totally get that. But what I'd like to say is, why is this so evil? Why is this so terrible? Why are people being denied?
No one's denying.
They are denying it here. Basically, they're saying that be called a binge drinker. You don't want to be going around saying, "This is Isabel. She lives up the street and she's a binge drinker," do you? Because you take 6 drinks once a month.
I mean, the problem is the health impacts, right? Because lots of cancers are caused by excessive drinking. So there are ramifications for drinking that much. I mean, all of us that drink too much know that. I know that. And obviously, once you've got children, I've got a baby daughter, I'm very conscious of that now with her. The thing is, we just need to invent something that's kind of buzzy, but not alcohol. I mean, I know there's a guy called Professor David Nutt who's invented Satire.
Tried it, have you?
It is quite good, yeah, but I feel like maybe it's just the beginning of that process. We've got loads of clever people in this country. Why can't they just come up with some really cool, buzzy, non-alcohol alcohol?
You can't take anything that will bring you to a different place. You can't take laughing gas. You can't take tramadol.
Yeah.
You can't take...
Maybe that's it. I've taken laughing gas. I've got it.
You swallowed laughing gas.
Laughing gas.
Yeah, right, sorry.
Right, no, that's fine. Let's go to self... Where are we going to go? Oh, I don't know. You choose, because there's some serious ones in there. We
self-driving cars, Nikki.
Let's do that.
Right? So this was in the King's speech yesterday.
Yeah, so basically, it's self-driving cars, the automated vehicles bill, which has been proposed. It's basically saying that it shouldn't be the I don't know what to call them, not the driver, the person in the vehicle that is responsible for a crash if one happens, and certainly not for a fatality. It should be the company that made the car, the manufacturers. This is really interesting because we talk a lot about tech companies not taking responsibility for things, and this is an example where it's been squarely pushed back on them. Now, the problem with this, apparently, is that, well, it's less likely that tech companies are going to want to invest in the UK and produce these kinds of vehicles. But from my perspective, I don't drive. I'm dying for a self-driving car. I can't wait for the day. And the idea that I don't really understand how the road works and then I'm liable if my car kills someone, that would put me off having one. So, I mean...
But you need one.
Yeah, because I spend so much on Ubers.
No, no. You have those 6 drinks, you're drinking them all the time. I mean, you need to be ferried about the place, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's pretty much. The Northern Lights. We go to Gosforth.
I've never seen them. Have you ever seen them?
Never, no.
Yeah,
I'm dying to see them. Have you ever seen them?
No.
You bothered?
Yeah, I would like to see them.
Good. I think you're going to say not fast then.
No, very fast.
But when you have 6 drinks on a Friday night, do you not see them? No?
Especially from Yorkshire, definitely.
You with the big goblet.
Oh, stop it! Right, I want to see lights.
Northern Lights, right?
And all the rest of
so,
it.
the Greg's bakery factory in Gosforth in Newcastle reported seeing a huge festive bake floating in the sky. Tell us more, Chris.
Well, basically, the viral video, and you see these couple of young guys looking starry-eyed up in the stars. And do you remember the Thunderbirds are go? There's a rocket that looks like a Thunderbird #1, flies up into the air, and then you've got the traditional Greg's bake. I mean, if you've got children, they'd have had a Greg's bake. It comes out of this pocket and bags some joy. And it's quite Actually, it's a really good site. I was quite surprised when I...
See, I thought we were actually going to see the... Is it the
Oh, is it not there?
Warrior? No, we've seen the drones. We've seen the Greg-sponsored eye pollution.
Yeah.
Sky pollution. But I thought we were going to see the natural phenomenon.
No, that was it. Up in the north, Newcastle, where Greg comes from, why I did Vanalik. And that's my Welsh, don't worry about that one.
Where's that?
How you got put wood in all.
But it is fascinating what to do with these drones. Let's see these again, Art. Let's have a look at these and we'll show. But these are synchronised drones that go up and they can
and if
form.
you are listening on the radio, it's as it sounds. They don't look like the Northern Lights.
Thunderbird 1.
No, that's it, Thunderbird 1. And that's a Greg's bike. Look at that.
How do they control that number of drones? How is that not a risk
artificial intelligence?
How is that not a risk to, like, flying things? Helicopters?
Well, you do need to have a licence to have a drone, don't you? I don't know if you have to apply for something special. Yes, exactly.
It's quite, to be fair, quite unique to see that and to see the coordination taken to actually be able to manage a drone, to actually have the Gregs and look at that Thunderbird.
You know, the last time we saw,
or the last time
I saw something like that, not personally, but on TV, was the coronation in the summer when they did the big party at Windsor Castle, and then they did the drones display. So it's obviously the new in thing. It is amazing.
It is beautiful, and obviously drones are an alternative to fireworks, which obviously cause so much harm for wildlife and
there's no noise associated with it, which is good. Nikki and Chris, thank you. We'll see you again in 40 minutes' time. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And still to come this morning, police forced to stand guard at a cenotaph in Rochdale. It's been vandalised for a second time. We're going to be going to Rochdale this morning and get the latest on that. If you've got a view, give us a call or a tweet or a email. That's what we're trying to say. Back after this.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Ah!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Good morning, it's about to turn 8 o'clock on Wednesday, the 8th of November. This is Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
And leading the news this morning, tensions within Labour reach breaking point as the Shadow Minister, Imran Hussain, steps down over his substantially different views on Gaza to Keir Starmer. Catherine Foster in Westminster.
Yes, it was perhaps a question of when, not if, we got the first resignation of a shadow front bench from Labour. There's huge divisions within the Labour Party, especially as the death toll rises in Gaza. Will he be the first of many?
Anti-terrorism police are putting out stark warnings that recent events overseas are inspiring violence across Britain. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
And our security editor, Mark White, is at the heart of the conflict in Tel Aviv, which just last night saw an attack by Hamas rockets. Mark White with more.
Those large rocket attacks into Tel Aviv last night show that Hamas still has the capability and the determination to go after Israel's civilian areas. And while that's the case, then the Israeli military will continue to go after Hamas in Gaza.
Plus, we have a special report this morning on a British family still waiting for news about their missing loved ones.
With the DNA, they confirmed that Nadav and Yam, they are murdered at the house. And my sister and the 3 kids basically kidnapped.
State opening of Parliament, the King's first King's speech. Pomp and ceremony or pantomime? What do you think? What if it was? We'll be speaking to the royal commentator, looking forward to the views of Jenny Bond.
Apparently she thinks it's all a bit pantomime. What does Paul Coit think about the sport? He'll have an update for us.
It's certainly not pantomime, it's very serious, I'll have you know. We've got the Champions League from last night. Also tale of 2 goalkeepers, one that's getting a statue in his hometown and the other one that got showered with fake cash last night.
Ooh. Any sign of some sunshine? Let's go to Alex Burkill.
Good morning. After a wet and windy start, many of us will see something sunnier this afternoon, but also some showers. I'll have more shortly.
Also, we talked about food banks in the last hour. Really interesting discussion was had and loads of you getting in touch on this. Joanne, I used to be a single mum. I managed on £25 a week to feed my 2 boys and myself. I did it and was good at making things go further. Freeze, and there was no waste.
I think these are some interesting points. Patricia says, around here, food banks are in the way of, or a way of life. The people who use them will spend £100 plus on fireworks and go to a food bank as well. So I'm not in favour we should teach folk how to manage their money. I don't do food banks, but I do help out with the homeless. And Kerry sums up what a lot of you are thinking. Food banks have been abused over the years, unfortunately. I think, and this is interesting, proof should be shown so that the really vulnerable people don't miss out.
Also talking about the Cenotaph in Rochdale, Gary's got in touch. This is more about anti-British sentiment than anything to do with Palestine. Why are we being subjected to such behaviour? This country is going backwards. What's coming in? GBnews at gbnews.com, or we can tweet us at GBnews.
Cracks are showing in the Labour Party over the Hamas conflict in Gaza. Divisions within the Labour Party. Frontbencher Imran Hussain has resigned from the shadow cabinet over Keir Starmer's position on the crisis.
Well, Hussein was the shadow minister for the New Deal for Working People, and he wrote to the Labour leader last night saying he was, in his own words, deeply troubled by the rhetoric on Gaza, and he says he now will strongly advocate for a ceasefire.
It comes as the leader of Burnley Council and 10 other councillors resigned from the Labour Party as tensions in their communities are high, they say.
Well, in other developments, over the past 4 weeks, more than 1,350 allegations of terrorist activity have been reported to a UK counter-terrorism hotline. That's double the number of calls to the police compared to this time last year.
So, in Rochdale, police are being forced to stand guard as their local cenotaph has been vandalised there, and that is not the first time that has happened.
And the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Mark Rowley has defied calls for a ban on pro-Palestinian marches this weekend through London. Let's talk to our North West of England reporter Sophie Reaper. Sophie's at that Rochdale War Memorial. It was defaced yesterday with the words pro-Palestine across it, and the graffiti has since been removed, but the site, Sophie, continues to be guarded by police.
Absolutely. Good morning to you both. You can see the cenotaph here behind me. The wreaths have been replaced and the words that were sprayed on there yesterday have now been removed. But as you say, they've been replaced by rather increased security. You may be able to see over my shoulder. I'm not sure where they've just wandered off to. But there are several PCSOs from Greater Manchester Police patrolling the area. We're also told that the CCTV operation in use, as well as other guarded patrols in the area. Yesterday, Chief Superintendent, Nikki Porter, said, "We will not tolerate the criminal disrespect of the town's memorial gardens, and I hope the action we have already taken in response to these two incidents reassures our communities of that." Now, some of our viewers, I'm sure, will remember that I was here on Monday reporting on a video that was circulating social media which showed Palestinian flags had been laid on the war memorial and the wreaths had been scattered in front. Now, at the time, Rochdale Borough Council told us that was because the flags had been laid there by children who had been having a photograph there, and that the wreaths had been displaced by some recent bad weather. However, we do now know that on Monday there was an incident which led to 2 teenagers being arrested. Now, because of their age, we can't reveal their identities, but we can reveal that they have now been charged with intentionally or recklessly causing public nuisance. So that was incident number 1. Then we come to incident number 2, which yesterday, which is what we're now talking about, someone sprayed the words "Free Palestine" on the war memorial here. We were told last night by Greater Manchester Police that it had been designated as a crime scene while they carried out their investigation. Clearly the words have now been removed, but that doesn't mean that people will not be outraged here in Rochdale, but also all over the UK as we approach Memorial Remembrance Weekend this weekend.
Just before you leave us, give us a view. I'm sorry we've brought you all that way just to look at your umbrella. Can you put your umbrella down and just let us see the cenotaph? No, down. Are you going to melt? Oh, very good. That's a good one there. That's a good position there. Yeah.
Apologies, Eamonn. Apologies.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Thank you very much indeed, Sophie. Cheers.
Well, let's take a look at the wider picture with our political correspondent Catherine Forster joins us from Westminster. Look, the pressures on communities bubbling over, so much so that we, after a month of this crisis, we have our first shadow cabinet resignation.
Yes, that's right. I think it was a question of when, not if, this was going to happen, to be honest. The death toll in Gaza now over 10,000. We've had about a third of Labour MPs come out in favour of a ceasefire. That is not the position of Sir Keir Starmer, the Labour leadership. Now, Imran Hussein, the Bradford East MP, he was shadow minister for the New Deal for Working People. He resigned from that position late last night, saying with a heavy heart, but saying that he wants to be able to strongly campaign for a ceasefire. Now, I don't think Sir Keir Starmer's position is going to change anytime soon. He's very much falling into line with the government, with the United States, because he's mindful that he believes that he's likely to be Prime Minister in a year or so's time. But huge pressure from within his party. And I think really he has cracked down on anti-Semitism. Jeremy Corbyn, going back a few years, said that Hamas and Hezbollah were his friends. Keir Starmer has really clamped down on anti-Semitism. He's brought the Labour Party a long way. They've been apparently quite united, but this conflict is really reopening those divisions within the party. And more broadly, of course, across the country, we've seen huge divisions, anti-Semitism massively on the rise, also Islamophobic attacks, and the very real concerns now about what happens with this pro-Palestinian protest on Armistice Day. Sir Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, has said they don't have sufficient grounds to ban it. He said that they will be well away from the Cenotaph. They will have it at a later time in the day, but there's certainly a lot of concern about what could unfold on Saturday. And meanwhile, calls to the terror hotline have doubled in the weeks following the terrorist attacks on October the 7th. So splits within Labour, splits within the community, and a very difficult issue for the police around the country and the security services to deal with.
Thank you very much indeed. You're really keeping us busy this morning with comments on food banks as well. Very controversial, and basically, it's not that I'm going to read these out, Isabel, because they're quite vindictive, quite nasty, but people are saying that there's a lot of people who use food banks but still get their nails done, get their hair done, get their burgers, get their subscription TV, their Amazon parcels, so it goes on and on and on, cigarettes, whatever. And people are saying, is this what food banks were set up for? William says our local food bank doesn't need people to be referred. It advertises all people welcome. And their latest advert says, bring a friend.
Andrew says, I live near Benidorm, repeatedly hear the conversation about going down to food banks on return to UK as they have no food, despite just having had a slap-up meal, leaving platefuls of food and over-enjoying too much alcohol. I'm sure there is some abuse of the system, but I think it's undeniable that there is clearly a demand of people who are prepared to take that humbling step of going to take food from a food bank. And let us know your thoughts on
It's 11 minutes past 8 o'clock on radio, on television, online. This is GB News. To the conflict in the Middle East, and the Palestine Red Crescent Society has accused Israeli forces of targeting a humanitarian convoy in Gaza City.
Yes, it was made up of 5 trucks and it was carrying life-saving medical supplies to health facilities when it was hit by fire. 2 trucks were damaged and one of the drivers was wounded.
Israel insists the only deliberate targets are Hamas terrorists who killed 1,400 people on October the 7th.
But fears are growing over the fate of those kidnapped by Hamas. Well, joining us now is GB News' security editor Mark White, live from Tel Aviv. We can't forget all of those people who have gone through not only the horrors of the 7th of November, but continue to wait for news of their loved ones. We hear a lot, obviously, the pictures coming in of everything in Gaza, but obviously, nearly 200 of those still waiting for news.
Yeah, 240, 241 hostages that they know of. The difficulty is Israel believes that there probably are other hostages, but they've not been able to determine whether the individuals concerned are missing or perhaps dead and their bodies have not been recovered or identified, or indeed they have been taken hostage. And yes, clearly that is of great concern to the families and to people right across Israel who want to see the safe return of those hostages. And as the country was pausing to mark 1 month since those atrocities on the 7th of October, another rocket attack coming in from Hamas into Israel and civilian communities, and really just hammering home to the political class and the military the need from their perspective to continue going after Hamas. And we saw it last night here in Tel Aviv with 2 large rocket attacks into this city. And in fact, just before you came to me, my app on the phone was buzzing again. Another rocket attack. This time, I'll just show you into northern Israel. Now, this is an area above the port city of Haifa, Shalomi, which is in that area. Now, it's very likely that these rockets have come from Hamas fighters who are also embedded in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah have been also firing anti-tank missiles, rockets and other munitions over Israel's northern border as well. So it's not quite a full-scale war on its northern front, but it is tying tens of thousands of IDF troops up, dealing with what is happening from Hezbollah and from Hamas fighters up in that northern border as well.
Very much indeed. Fascinating to see those updates coming through in real time.
Well, last night, and this is in the front pages of the papers today, a lot of celebrities have joined Prince William in Singapore for a green carpet event, and it was appropriately green because this is his third Earthshot Prize award ceremony.
Well, we're joined now by the royal commentator Jenny Bond. Good morning to you, Jenny. Obviously the morning after the King's speech as well, so lots of royal news to discuss with you. But let's start, shall we, with the Prince of Wales and what can only be described as a huge success, I think it's fair to say, for him over in Singapore. A glittering cast, a successful green carpet. What did you make of it all?
Yeah, I think this is going to define the Prince, really, in many ways. He's absolutely passionate about this project. You know, when he launched the Earthshot, he said he'd been inspired by JFK Kennedy, who had said about the moonshot that they did it not because it was difficult, but because it was hard, because it was easy. I'll get that right in a minute. He did it because... I'll get that absolutely right. They didn't do it because it was easy. They did it because it was hard. And that is what William thinks about the project. What I really like about it is that he is so optimistic and enthusiastic about this, and he believes there is hope. We hear so much doom and so much gloom about the earth and how we are destroying it, which undoubtedly is true, but he's taking a different tack and he is saying, OK, that may be the case, but we're going to do something about it. And so he is giving, with the help, obviously, of all the sponsors, millions of pounds, 5 million every year, to various projects which really will, hopefully, make a difference to this planet.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you, Jenny. I totally agree that the reason that this is really resonating with people is because of the optimism. I don't think people want to hear any sort of pontificating, lecturing. They want to hear solutions, answers, changes, and that's exactly what he's doing. But is there a bit of irony, do you think, to the Prince of Wales being in Singapore, hosting this big event, trying to save the planet, when his father is having to read out a legislative agenda of a government that is tearing up green plans, which we know the King himself would not be a fan of, and therefore does it kind of make a mockery of this kind of constitutional parliament opening? That's sort of pomp and ceremony, but what's the point?
I agree with you absolutely. No, I was asked yesterday to write a piece about it before it happened, the state opening of Parliament. I said, well, there's nothing new, and all there is new is there's the policies. It's a political story. It's really not for me. And then I watched it and I thought, do you know what? This is ridiculous. This is a pantomime, I think. I can't think for a moment the King enjoyed it, or the Queen. It's obviously very expensive to stage something like this. Yes, it's a wonderful spectacle, but, you know, we've seen it quite recently with the coronation, etc. And that was a celebration. This is a man being obliged to stand up and read a speech, clearly some of which he did not agree with. You did expect him at any moment to toss the whole document over his shoulder and say, what a load of piffle. Obviously, you can't do that. The whole thing was so uncomfortable, and I thought, why do we carry on doing this? It should have been the Prime Minister standing in Parliament outlining his programme. That's my view.
Have a sort of hybrid version of this, where you have all the pomp and pageantry, which, let's be honest, lots of British people enjoy, and it's a sort of celebration of best of British. And you could sort of almost have a ribbon cutting or something similar to open Parliament, and then he stands to one side and lets the Prime Minister of the day read his own legislative plans. Because, as you say, it's just so awkward. All of the cameras trained on the King at the particular point they thought he might flinch. You know, the pressure.
Yeah, Too much and pointless, I think. I think this is a political day, and actually we make a great song and dance about, yes, this is a constitutional monarchy, but our king or queen is above politics, neutral, separate from. And there's a lot of symbolism in this whole procedure, which none of us really understand. You know, I study it every year and hope to broadcast about it, but then I don't, and I forget it all. It doesn't. I mean, what is maintenance and the sword of state and the very pretty crown? All ridiculous, should be purely political, and I'm not even sure a hybrid version is necessary because it's expensive.
But it's not nice to get the crown jewels out for an outing, otherwise they just sit in the Tower of London gathering dust, don't they?
Well, yes, all right. We can have a parade of the crown jewels, maybe. But I think we should concentrate on dear William doing what he does. And I did want to say one of the best projects I think that's got £1 million this year is for the building and recycling of lithium batteries for electric cars, because I think that's a whole other debate.
Well, I'm glad you raised that, Jenny, because while William is doing that and talking about how we get the best out of the planet, his brother surely has missed a trick or has no sensitivity about climate change, whereby he boarded a private aircraft and flew from California with his wife to Las Vegas to watch the artist Katy Perry. Now, my point is, fine, I don't care if he uses a private plane or not, but I do care when the same couple preach to the rest of us about doing such things and then seem completely oblivious that it's not do as we do, just do as we say.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? It really is. PJs, as they call them, private jets, you know, are the territory of the celebrity world in which he now lives. And he seems to be embracing it fully. And as you say, that's his right. But just what part of hypocrisy does he not understand? I'm so sorry he's doing this. I just hope he stops talking about saving the planet and the environmental cares that he did have, apparently. Because, as you say, he's got to live by it.
Well, Jenny Bond, not holding back. We love it. Thank you very much indeed for coming on and talking to us this morning. Appreciate it.
I always love to see Jenny study her living room and say, where is she today? She says that's all her husband's, not ours. But,
always gorgeous dresses and always a fabulous backdrop. So
just like
package.
Through the keyhole for us. Forgive us, Jenny. OK, bye-bye. Thank you. Cheers. Here's Alex Burkle.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Alex Burkle here again with your latest GB News weather forecast. There will be something sunnier to arrive later on, but at the moment it's a wet and windy picture for many of us. Outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, and even across parts of Scotland we have some sleet or snow. Most of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through the morning, but lingering across parts of the east and southeast of England well into the afternoon. Drier, brighter weather following in behind for many of us, but a scattering of showers across western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. In the north, temperatures for some will struggle in single figures. Further south, we're looking at highs of around 13 or 14 Celsius. As we go through the end of the day and overnight, the showers will become more widespread. So across more parts of England and Wales, we're going to see showery outbreaks of rain through the night, perhaps towards the southeast, staying dry with some clear skies, and also across parts of northeast Scotland. Here, it could turn a little chilly, possibly a touch of frost for some places. Elsewhere, a bit milder, but it will still be a little chilly first thing on Thursday morning. Through Thursday itself, then, a showery picture across the bulk of the UK. The heaviest, most frequent showers will be towards western parts where we have those brisk westerly winds, also some heavy showers in the far southeast as well. Otherwise, the driest, brightest weather will be towards eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. Here, there should be some decent, fine, sunny weather to be had. Temperatures for many likely to be down a degree or so compared to today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Still to come, Paul Coit will be here with some of the sports news of the day, including the goalkeeper with the biggest hands in the business.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Are Queer, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new
It's your new t-shirt. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Busy night in the Champions League last night. It'll be another busy night tonight. Paul Coit is with us to talk you through it.
Let's go with Newcastle first, shall we? Beaten by Borussia Dortmund. Newcastle, lots of injuries, that's the truth. But as far as the Champions League's concerned, it really is not looking so good. They started off well. They're bottom now of their group. They've got 2 games to go, so beaten by Borussia Dortmund last night, which is not good. Worse for Celtic, though. They're definitely going out because they were thrashed by Atletico Madrid 6-0 in Madrid last night. They had one sending off, which wasn't good. It could have been 12.
Are Madrid that good? Are they that good?
I think it's a bit of both. Madrid are good, but Celtic, I mean, were just well beaten.
Okay.
And Manchester City, now they really are the best. Manchester City 3, Young Boys 0. Erling Haaland got a hat-trick. You know what happened at half-time? This is interesting. Erling Haaland, Mohamed El Kamara from Young Boys actually asked for Erling Haaland's shirt actually at half-time. So, you know, we usually do the shirt exchange thing. He's thinking probably everybody's going to want the shirt, so maybe I'll go in there early.
Yeah.
So he asked Erling at half-time, can I have your shirt? And Erling's like, well, you know, and there he is. That's him playing against him. And he just said, well, you can't really do this. But he did give him the shirt. And it's a very bizarre thing. Did it at half-time, before the game.
Wow.
Before the actual game.
So what happened? So what did he play in for the second half?
They have loads of shirts.
Oh, right.
See, back in the old days, they'd only have one shirt.
I was going to say it'd be like topless for the second half.
Well, can you imagine? Yeah, it was skins against... and that's what it would have been. But no, he did get his shirt. And also another game in the Champions League.
No, let's talk about shirts.
Oh, you want to talk about shirts?
Yeah. I've got some amazing shirts.
Have you?
Right. Yeah.
To the point where I went into your attic and I thought that there was somebody watching me get undressed. I was going to a function. Eamonn said, "You go and get ready upstairs." And I was absolutely terrified. I turned around, there was a mannequin, head to toe, and I presume...
You've got a mannequin with the shirts on?
I've got a number of mannequins.
Head to toe, Man United kit.
Should try. But anyway, I have Roy Keane's shirt from remember the day they played in grey and Fergie made them change against Southampton?
Because it was invisible.
Because it was invisible.
Yeah.
So Albert the Kit Man gave me Roy Keane's shirt.
What, the grey one?
That day, yeah.
That no one wore?
They did wear it. They wore it for one half.
Did you ask him for it?
No, Albert said to me, "Eamonn, come here. Got something for you." And I thought, that's good.
And you're saying, where is it? Where is it? I can't see it. It's invisible. I can't see it. What's it?
But even better than that, I have got Eric Cantona's shirt.
You haven't.
From the return of the Magnificent Seven. Remember we faced that big band? He came back against Liverpool and scored from the penalty spot.
Is this Albert again?
I have the shirt.
Did he say...
A bit tight for money these days.
Are they framed, Eamonn, or are they on the mannequins?
They're not framed. Neither is framed. No.
Do you set they're just gathering dust somewhere?
They're so valuable, they're so precious to me that I just worry about doing anything that may harm them. Yeah.
Do you not ever think of setting the mannequins up and maybe having a little game
Foosball
against them and imagine that they're real players?
Anyway, we talk about the next game or we talk about Pat?
Quick one on Donnarumma. Gianluigi Donnarumma, who plays for AC Milan, showered with money yesterday. It was
Why?
There he is. So he's playing for Paris Saint-Germain. Look at that. See the cash?
Yeah.
Someone spent a lot of money to get this fake cash done. He played at AC Milan and then he left on a free. They felt heartbroken because he's walked out and not got any money for the club.
Oh,
gone
supporters
for the
are
big
so
money.
fickle.
Exactly. So he's now playing at PSG. First time going back to the San Siro. They then showered him with fake money.
See, that is that a linesman or I don't know what it is. He must have thought for a minute, oh, this is a good job, isn't it?
Stuff my pockets up. But I tell you what, I just wonder whether those fake notes are going to be, they're probably going to go on eBay because they're probably going to be worth something themselves. So, you know, I don't have one of those. Well, tonight, Arsenal versus Sevilla, Copenhagen versus Manchester United, but Big Pat, we should mention.
Oh, yes.
Big Pat Jennings.
Big Pat and his big hands.
And his big hands, the biggest hands in football, the greatest goalkeeper I ever saw. He is getting his own statue. That's the real Pat, by the way. That's not a fake Pat, that's a real Pat.
Pat's hairstyle's never changed.
Never changed.
How old is Pat?
Pat is, what, 77, I believe?
Unbelievable.
He looks good, doesn't he?
There he is on the left, still coaches.
An absolute gentleman.
That is the benefit of being fit all your life, isn't it? You go on and you don't age.
You'd like to think so.
Look at the size of that hand. Look at the size of that hand. And that's how the statue looks.
Nice statue.
It's going to be, and it looks like it.
But not every statue's nice.
Well, they're not. Well, I've got a few, and we can see what we think. And I've now taken on the role not only of head of sports and pastimes, but head of statues as well. Right. So I've got a couple of statues. First one, I believe, is something that you know quite a lot about. I think this is the one you unveiled, isn't it, Alex Ferguson? Do we have the Alex Ferguson statue, or am I going to have to pose still like...
You're the statue, Paul.
There we are.
Those are his famous words. There's the highlight of your item.
This is the highlight. I've been waiting since 6 o'clock this morning.
Do we have anyone's statue? Apart from Ronaldo's, right? Well, we should have told you who this was, right? Let's see it.
OK.
Let's see it.
Is this the good Ronaldo or is this the bad Ronaldo? Let's
just
have a
show
look.
us a statue.
Let's have a look. That's the good Ronaldo. That's in the
looks
rail.
like Beckham.
It's good though, isn't it? Very 1930s.
He's identifiable as Ronaldo. It's the hair and the brows.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Isabel, there's some awful ones. I've seen George Best ones, which are, you know, could be me.
Sludge.
Well, I'll give you an awful one. This is the good one that's in the Real Madrid museum. This one that went into Funchal Airport.
Oh, my.
Who's that?
Well, you tell me who that is.
That's also Ronaldo.
You're right, it is.
But it's a swivel-eyed version.
It's the Ronaldo that was revealed that he's
together.
in Madeira.
Awful.
He looks more like Wayne Rooney.
It doesn't look like anybody. So they ended up removing it. The artist or the sculptor was very happy with it because he said it captured the inner soul, I believe, of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Anybody else's statues before we go?
I hope we've got some more because with
we're fine. No.
Anyway, the Pat
another
one is
well-produced item.
It's not bad, is it?
Thank you.
Listen, I've got my hand. I've got blood on my hands as far as this item's concerned. I'm going to believe
Big Pat in Newry today. I think it's around midday, is it?
11:45. Outside the town hall, dignitaries from everyone. Pat and well deserved, and it's going to look magnificent there.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
I wonder where they'll put a statue up of me.
I was wondering that.
Where? Outside Man United or Belfast? I mean, they've got a taxi with you on.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Outside Belfast City Hall, that's where it should go, really. Yeah. As long as they make me look thin. It's okay, it'll be all right. Anyway, what are we doing next, Isabel?
Well, a Politics Joe reporter has taken to the streets to ask those experiencing homelessness if they think it's a lifestyle choice. We know what the Home Secretary thinks. We'll find out what they said about it all in Headline Makers next.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the Dinosaur Hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh! No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you.
Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Put in your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Well, we're going through Headline Makers this morning.
2 years a month. Isabel was telling me about her cat, which apparently every month...
My kitten. First 2 years, I believe, someone said to me, it could not be true, the first 2 years, they're 2 years a month. So he's effectively 6 because he's 3 months old.
That's a lot of nonsense. Who told you that?
Not on the internet.
It's got to be true.
Someone tell me if that's right or not.
That. So
my little boy kitten, he's like a 6-year-old now. We've had him 3 months.
No,
love of my life.
That'll not be true.
Love him.
My wee dog.
So you're a cat person as opposed to a doggy person?
Oh yeah, 1000%.
Oh really?
I mean, I like anything furry with paws that's cute. I'm a cutometer person. Just love cute things. But cats every time if I have to choose.
Oh my gosh, no.
Sorry, can we still be friends?
Yeah.
my wee doggy's. Well, she's 14, and the vet has prescribed her as incontinent.
Oh, no. So it wasn't the fireworks.
It was the fireworks. The fireworks sent her incontinent.
We heard in detail about what happened, and now it's a problem, is it?
Well, it's every morning she leaves me...
Oh, I don't need to go into detail.
You do need to go into detail because I go into the shower in the morning and the bath rug is...
But she might have a brain problem.
...crumpled up and it's covering. Then you uncrumple it and it's little presents.
Oh, so she tries to cover it up.
She
Bless
covers
her
it up.
little heart.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think you should get a puppy just to overlap the last
100%.
month or so of 2 months of Maggie's life, so that when she does pass away, the grief is not as terrible.
I agree.
We're having this discussion with my parents who think their cat might not last many more years, and they're going to be bereft.
Oh, really?
You've got multiple.
No, well, I had 3 dogs, but at that stage where she becomes incontinent, often it's a brain issue, and she kept on having epileptic fits, which I didn't see.
Oh, you need...
And then when she was fitting, she would wet herself, which you didn't see. Happened most of the night.
I think what I'll get done, though, is the Undertaker thing. I'll get her formaldehyde or whatever put into her and get her preserved, stuffed. I won't tell Ruth.
We were talking about statues before. You've already got statues of the living embodiment of Maggie.
Yeah, but I could... She's only the size of a fox, so a black fox, so I could get her stuffed.
What is
put her
she?
in the fireplace.
You'd be properly
She's a cross. I got a DNA test on. She's a rescue dog, but she's a cross between a border collie, which you can see, and a sausage dog.
Oh my word, that is very unusual.
That feels wrong. I don't think that can be right. There can't be many of those.
Was a bloke. I hope it wasn't a sausage dog. Was a bloke.
Oh, too much.
What's that? Her daddy's a sausage dog.
Wow.
Sausage dogs are so naughty. I've got one.
Have you got one?
Yeah, he's amazing. But
I worry about their back. I worry, will their back go?
Well, you've got to underfeed them. When they get the weight on them, that's when they have back problems. So he sprints like a greyhound, mine. He's bonkers.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know.
So keep him hungry.
Right, what would we describe, guys, Suella Braverman as? She has described homelessness as a lifestyle choice. Nikki?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of words. Most of them not that polite. I find it baffling that she's a committed Buddhist, apparently. If you knew that fact about her. But yeah, I mean, she's been going on about homelessness as a lifestyle choice. I don't know if she's ever looked at the statistics of what it's like to live on the street. You know, rough sleepers in particular. I think the average age for men is 46, for women it's 43.
Is that right?
I don't think anybody would choose that option. I really think what she's been saying is just so dangerous.
Yeah.
And I don't like the fact that she often uses the phrase, the British people are behind this, or the British people think this. Well, not in my name and not in lots of other people.
Well, do you think it, guys? Let us know this morning. Meanwhile, we're going to show you a film report from a Politics Joe reporter who went to ask people sleeping rough whether it really was for them a lifestyle choice.
If she were to come out on the streets and live as you do, what is it that she would experience? Hell.
But when I do sleep, you're lucky. It's like, I'm lucky if I make £1 a day. I'm lucky if I make food. I struggle to eat. I'm lucky if I eat 1 meal a week. It's bad.
He says this is a lifestyle choice. Did you choose to be here?
No, did I? Hell, who chooses to be homeless?
He's a scumbag. Simple as. He doesn't know. I'd like to see him do a day out here.
Yeah.
Like, he won't know anything about it because he's got money, he's got a house, he's got all this. He doesn't have to worry about it.
Well, those are stories, real-life stories. And, Chris, you can add to that.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, I mean, I've got experience with this with my brother who had a mental health issue and this was a care leaver. So a lot of the people that are on the streets, if you've got a mental health issue or been a care leaver, or a service personnel with post-traumatic stress disorders. And so often there's this mental breakdown. So like you're a care leaver, you're 16 or now 18, that was my brother's scenario, gets put out onto the streets, can't fend for himself, he's been institutionalised, finds himself what Sir Braverman says, making a lifestyle choice. No, it was because the support system wasn't there for them. I mean, it's just such a crass statement with somebody who's got absolutely no experience. And it's a shame she's the Home Secretary who's supposed to be there to support and to find out solutions, not create division and denigration and make people feel less self-worth than they already are.
What I think's interesting, she's clearly split from number 10 on this. This isn't the rhetoric that you'd hear from the Prime Minister on homelessness. But what astounds me is that she thinks that this kind of language could help her become leader of the Conservative Party in the future. And people have talked about the nasty party in the past. Yes. I mean, surely this is the embodiment to say things like this, to call peace marches hate marches. I mean, Gary Lineker called her out on that. I know a lot of people who watch and listen to GB News are big fans of Suella, but I do wonder whether some of this language will land her in that position of being called nasty party and how that can lead to being leader.
She's playing a very dangerous game, if you ask me, because actually what she's doing is deliberately whipping up hate for vulnerable people. That is what she's doing with homelessness, you know? And I don't know, is that the kind of electorate she wants? Say she gets voted in, say that does work and that does appeal to a certain kind of person. You're going to have a whole electorate with lacking empathy. For everybody in a situation that's, less good than theirs. And that's a terrible way to go forward.
Absolutely ghastly. Let's talk about mums and dads and who does what in the house now. The Daily Mail are running this today. British dads, how much more childcare do they do these days? I mean, what else is being inflicted on men to have to do, to carry a burden, to keep a family going and do everything?
Well, apparently British dads now do 4 times more childcare than they did 60 years ago. So in the 1960s, British dads did just 18 minutes a day childcare, which is kind of baffling, isn't it? It is for me.
Anyway. That much?
I know, yeah. My dad read a bedtime story, that was it.
Well,
God love him.
My parents were teachers, so it was split very evenly in my house. And now my husband has taken a year off with me, which is a very privileged position to be in. And he does definitely half, if not more sometimes, care of our daughter.
So with my first children, when I was married, I was probably quite a traditional dad. I saw my children dinner, when we sat down for dinner, and we discussed things, and then I would read the bedtime story, and that was it. And then Monica, my wife, did absolutely everything else. Brilliant wife.
So these...
Okay.
So these stats are saying that whatever work British dads do today, it's still only half as much as mums are expected to do.
I think a lot of what the women still do is the mental load. So my husband's amazing and he pulls his weight 50-50, I'd say, with the kids, with the housework, everything. But what he doesn't do is organise the play dates, organise the presents for the parties which then need to be wrapped. He doesn't know, when assemblies are, which PE kit they need on which day. That all comes down to me. So yes, he does do everything at home as much as I do because we both work and we both bring in, the same amount to the house. But it's just a different thing. The mental load, really.
I mean, the thing is, Isabel, I always find men sort of try and flatter us and say, "Well, you're just so good at that."
All right, that'd be nice.
We enjoy
don't get much of that.
I've heard that before.
But that's stress weakness. So I'm much more hands-on with my current children. I've got a lad who's 15 and a little girl who's 13. And actually, I'm the one who's all over the curricula and what they are actually supposed to be doing because I enjoy that and I want to be involved. So that's my contribution, really, is to ensure that...
Are you on the school WhatsApp? Because that takes over my entire life.
Yeah, no,
But 2 different schools, 2 children, 8,000 messages a day, just my head rolls.
Yeah.
And, to be free of that would be glorious.
All the emails I get, that's...
Let's pick your brain as a fashion commentator now, Chris. This is a collaboration clothing. It's a strange-looking jacket. We're going to see it here, and you tell us what it is called.
Well, it's a collaboration between Adidas and CP Company, and it is strange because it's a throwback. So, as a sportsman, I actually was sponsored by Adidas for a while. And,
very military looking,
and as a soldier, I'd have had one of those when we did CS gas. I mean, it's a strange construction where you've got like a gas mask over the top, fully covered, like a hoodie, and then some sort of strange sort of waterproof jacket. I don't think it's going to catch on if I be very, very honest.
So what is the idea of the hood or the mask? I don't know if we can see that.
Well, I think it's Kanye West who has started doing a lot of these sort of gimp mask things, and there was...
So what's a gimp mask?
Well, it's when people wear masks over their faces, sort of like all-in-ones, and Kim Kardashian wore one to the Met Gala, I think, a year or two ago.
I think this might be like 2 or 3 years too late. It would have been ideal to come out in 2020. You could wear that through the pandemic. Yeah,
Yes.
you're rocking and rolling.
Can I read this comment? It made me laugh. It went viral. One post on Twitter got thousands of likes for commenting, when you've got Millwall away at 3 p.m. and then at night you're shoveling debris from the roof of Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Pretty much that.
The one outfit. OK. School topics that trip up parents, Nikki. So top of the list is?
Trigonometry.
OK, yeah.
Much about geography.
Whoa. OK, you had a good teacher.
You know that Sam Cooke said, don't you? Yeah. I love that song.
Sorry, I thought that was a formula for remembering it. Can any of you remind me what trigonometry is?
Pass. Yeah.
It's where, okay, my husband does a maths degree. He's going to find this so funny, my explanation. It's where you've got to use the sides of triangles to calculate some kind of, and they can be, it's
what is the science of triangles?
When the sum,
Here we go.
It's something when the sum of each side of the triangle equals, I don't know what, but it has
something to do with adding up the edges.
This is my point. He's doing GCSEs, and he was this weekend doing his revision, and I popped over his shoulder, looked over there, and there was equations and there was angles, and I said, what's that? Oh, my GCSE, whatever. Yeah, you crack on, son.
Well, you see, what it is, it's a totally useless subject to learn. You never use it in life unless you're going to be, quantity surveyor, an architect or something like that, specific. And this is why Sunak gets on my threepennies, because he wants to revamp A-levels and force people to do maths in A-level. And who's going to want to do trigonometry? Who's going to...
Are most of the things that trip up parents maths related out of interest?
They are, actually. It's quite
kind of speaks to the point that he's making, that we don't really understand.
No, but we don't have to understand. That's the whole thing, Isabel. And artificial intelligence is coming along, which means we'll even have to less understand.
But also, when you go into work, though, when you do go into... So, like... although I wasn't great at maths at school, when I got into track and field athletics, I recognised actually that applied mathematics I was good at. I understood my percentages. I understood my split times. So I recognised how much physical effort is required to do 80% or 30%. So actually, when you apply the mathematics to your everyday living, it makes sense. It's actually quite poetic. It's quite artistic. And
satisfying because it's balanced.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a formula and it's neat and tidy.
It is. I mean, it's neat and it's tidy and it flows. So mathematics, when applied to your everyday living, is real sense. That's magic.
But apparently number 8 is how to ask for directions in French. 31% of parents can't do that.
Où est la gare?
Exactly. There you go.
Ooh, sacré bleu.
No, that's definitely not directions.
And also, people don't know the difference between a verb and
noun. Now, you see, there's a lot of nonsense there. The beginning and end dates of the 2 world wars. I think, what are you, just stupid? You know, they should... You know the beginning and end dates of the world wars. Right, go on.
14 to 18.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know the second one.
39 to 45.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Something very important.
But, you know, I just think they shouldn't leave school without knowing things like that. I understand the use of that sort of thing.
They don't teach us facts anymore at school.
Do they not?
Maybe they do again now, I don't know.
Alternative facts.
The periodic table.
All the rage now.
I mean, who doesn't know the periodic table?
So do you... Okay, I know CO2.
Yeah.
I do think this, though, goes to show what an incredible education you had, Eamonn, because no offence, are you the oldest person here?
Yeah.
And you probably remember more than any of the rest of us. So St Malachy's did a good job.
Oh, they did a very good job. I do worry the things that people are not learned. I mean, I look at my own kids, all who've got better examination results than me, but they know nothing. No, absolutely nothing. I sit and have a conversation. I say, come on, let's play Trivial Pursuit. They all run a mile because they know I will get everything and they won't. So I got a degree in Trivial Pursuit, basically.
Yeah. But then you say, pass me the telephone, and they're going to be all over the place.
Yeah.
So I guess it's all dependent upon...
Chris, can we talk about the sense of well-being? Apparently, it's all on the slide. It's still better, though, than during the pandemic. We're currently at 7.45. Actually, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah, well, it's, 7.45.
I nearly said 3/4, but corrected myself. 7.45 out of 10.
Out of 10, correct, Mondo, yeah. So it's an ONS annual survey. We can't get no satisfaction. Exactly. And basically, they've looked at scales from well-being and anxiety, well-being sort of caveated by happiness and life satisfaction and a sense of, yeah, this all makes sense and worthwhile. And you were right. So over the last 4 years, 2021, 22, 23, in 7.66 in 20 and 7.45 in 23. In the pandemic, it went down to 7.39, and then last figure 7.55 in 22. So when we came out of the pandemic, we felt good, optimistic.
It was all the rosé.
Yeah, let's get going again. We're having parties. We can get together with our friends. But now the reality has kicked in that actually cost of living crisis, energy, wars, rumour of wars, is a party in, is a party out, and all of a sudden, actually, does this life make sense at all? So I understand what they are saying, that we had a real flip out of the pandemic and we've gone backwards again.
OK. Well, thank you for pushing us forward today. Chris Akabusi, Nikki Hodson, thank you both very much indeed.
Yeah,
Lovely having you.
Enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
Let's take a look at the forecast now. Alex Burkill with that for us.
Hello, very good morning to you. It's Alex Burkill here again with your latest GB News weather forecast. There will be something sunnier to arrive later on, but at the moment it's a wet and windy picture for many of us. Outbreaks of rain, heavy at times, and even across parts of Scotland we have some sleet or snow. Most of the rain clears away towards the east as we go through the morning, but lingering across parts of the east and southeast of England well into the afternoon. Drier, brighter weather following in behind for many of us, but a scattering of showers across western parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. In the north, temperatures for some will struggle in single figures. Further south, we're looking at highs of around 13 or 14 Celsius. As we go through the end of the day and overnight, the showers will become more widespread. So across more parts of England and Wales, we're going to see showery outbreaks of rain through the night, perhaps towards the southeast, staying dry with some clear skies, and also across parts of northeast Scotland. Here, it could turn a little chilly, possibly a touch of frost for some places. Elsewhere, a bit milder, but it will still be a little chilly first thing on Thursday morning. Through Thursday itself, then, a showery picture across the bulk of the UK. The heaviest, most frequent showers will be towards western parts where we have those brisk westerly winds, also some heavy showers in the far southeast as well. Otherwise, the driest, brightest weather will be towards eastern parts of England and northeast Scotland. Here, there should be some decent, fine, sunny weather to be had. Temperatures for many likely to be down a degree or so compared to today. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Still to come, we're crossing to Christopher Hope. He's in Westminster for us this morning, reflecting on the King's speech as debates in the Houses of Parliament kick off the back of that. All the details in just a moment.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle.
Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's
my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes & Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it.
Headliners. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper. We've got it covered for you. Every night at 11 p.m. and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there.
So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at Drive Time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
Good morning. It's coming up to 9 o'clock on Wednesday, the 8th of November. This is Breakfast with Eamonn, Holmes and Isabel Webster.
Nice to have you on board, leading the news this morning. Tensions within Labour Party as Keir Starmer comes under renewed pressure over his stance on a Gaza ceasefire after Shadow Minister Imran Hussein stepped down. Very shortly we're going to be talking to the Shadow Education Secretary, Bridget Phillipson.
Chris Hope is in Westminster with the latest.
A Labour frontbencher quits over Keir Starmer's position on Gaza, but who's next? We'll find out.
Chris, anti-terrorism police are warning that recent events in the Middle East are inspiring violence right across Britain. Calls to the UK's anti-terror hotline have more than doubled since the war between Israel and Hamas began.
And 1 month on from Hamas's attack on Israel, we have a special report on a British family still waiting for news about their missing loved ones.
With the DNA, they confirmed that Nadav and Yam, they are murdered at the house. And my sister and the 3 kids basically kidnapped.
And with Remembrance Sunday coming up this weekend, we're celebrating veterans across the country. Today, we're talking to a taxi driver who offers free journeys for veterans.
Any sign of some sunshine? Alex Burkill has your forecast.
Good morning. After a wet and windy start, many of us will see something sunnier this afternoon, but also some showers. I'll have more shortly.
And we can have more from you on gbviews at gbnews.com, or you can tweet at gbnews.
So our top story this morning are cracks beginning to show as the first frontbencher Imran Hussein from the Shadow Cabinet has resigned over Keir Starmer's position on the crisis in the Middle East.
Hussein is the Shadow Minister for the New Deal, or he was the Shadow Minister for New Deal for working people. He wrote to Keir Starmer last night saying he was deeply troubled by Starmer's rhetoric on Gaza.
Well, he now plans, he says, to strongly advocate for a ceasefire, and he joins the leader of Burnley Council and 10 other councillors who have also resigned from Labour over the tensions in their communities.
Let's go to our political editor, Chris Hope, on this one. It had to happen. The cracks are beginning to show, Chris.
That's right. It's no surprise Imran Hussain has been the first to resign. He actually signed an early day motion, like a petition in Westminster last month, calling for or raising concerns about the position and pushing towards and calling for a ceasefire. We've heard him speak very passionately in the House of Commons when he's been asked to raise this issue. And of course, he represents a constituency called Bradford East, which has a high number of Muslim voters who are very concerned about the Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer's position on not calling for a ceasefire. I think that is going to, so far the Labour leader has hidden behind the government's position, which is a pause in hostilities by Israel, but not a ceasefire, because the Labour leader's position would be that would cement the gains made by Hamas and not allow Israel the right to defend itself. But this line between the right to defend yourself, Eamonn, and then also to preserve and ensure an unnecessary loss of life in Gaza is the line they're treading. It's very difficult for the Labour leader. I just wonder what's next. There are rumours in Westminster today of an Opposition Day debate, maybe next week, organised by the SNP. If that ends in a vote on whether to have a ceasefire or not, you may see this single resignation from the front bench by Imran Hussain become a torrent of resignations. We'll wait and see.
Very much indeed. Well, let's talk, shall we, a little bit more about the woes in the Labour Party with a member of the Shadow Cabinet. That is the Shadow Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipson. Good morning. Welcome to the programme. First of all, your reaction to the loss of your colleague Imran Hussain from the Shadow front bench.
I understand how colleagues feel about this. I understand the strength of feeling, and what we all want to see is more humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. It's absolutely essential that happens, that we see the release of hostages, but also in the long run that we get to a lasting political settlement of a viable Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel. That's what we all want to see. So I do recognise how colleagues feel about these issues, but I think humanitarian pauses, making sure that we have the opportunity for increased aid to get into Gaza, is the right approach, and I think is what we all want to see. More aid getting in, greater support.
Joe Biden wants to see a 3-day pause in the fighting, and he thinks this could, get a deal for some of the hostages. Is that something you feel you could support?
It's right that the US have been taking a leading role in all of this, and they've been calling humanitarian pauses. We've seen regular visits to the region from the US Secretary of State. They have an important role to play in the longer-term settlement that we all want to see in terms of a political solution to this. And they have also stressed, as is important as we have stressed, that Israel's actions in response to the appalling terrorist incidents that they experienced must be in line with international law.
They are in line with international law at this point.
There's a process for all of this to be determined. I don't think it's helpful to speculate on that. And I think the challenge that all of us face is that, it's a fast-moving situation where sometimes events on the ground only become clearer later. But where there are concerns that we have seen a breach, there is a proper process to be followed, and it's right that happens.
Is not alone in his concerns. Andy Burnham, Sadiq Khan, the leader of Labour in Scotland, all share his views, as well as we've talked about the resignation of 11 councillors. My question to you is, who's going to be next from the Shadow front bench?
Look, we're all horrified by what we're seeing. I know how strongly people feel about this. I feel it too, and we see every day on our television screens the suffering, the plight of innocent Palestinian people, of children, of families, and we all want more to happen to get aid in and to make sure that all of the actions that are being taken are consistent with international law. That's our primary focus. That's what we want to see happen. I think that's what we're all concerned about.
Bridget, let's talk about domestic matters, and you're the Shadow Education Secretary, and I know you are somewhat concerned looking ahead to the relationship between schools, families and government. How would you describe that relationship at the moment?
At the moment, the relationship between government and schools and between schools and families feels very broken. I think especially coming out of the pandemic, we saw a real fracturing in that relationship. Alongside that, we had industrial action that Tory ministers allowed to drag on for far too long that caused further disruption to our children's education. And then more recently, we've seen the crisis in our schools of crumbly concrete that again has disrupted children's education. If I were Education Secretary right now, I would be tackling what is a complex issue around persistent non-attendance at schools, making sure that there is extra help to get children back into the classrooms. Every day at school matters to our children, but at the minute, if things continue as they are, by 2025, 1 in 4 children will regularly be missing school. That is unacceptable. We cannot allow this drift to continue, and Labour's plans around extra mental health support in our secondary schools, breakfast clubs for all of our primary school children, that would make a big difference in tackling this problem.
You were in government. Do you agree with what Rishi Sunak was saying effectively in the King's speech yesterday, that once Labour's in power, you will be losing a lot of the hard-fought Brexit freedoms, seeking closer alignment with the European Union?
Well, it was a very thin King's speech overall, so it doesn't surprise me that Rishi Sunak wants to revisit the battles of the past. Our focus is on making sure that we make the best of Brexit, we make it work, and we secure a better deal that's in the long-term interests of the country. But we don't want to revisit that or reopen all of that. I think it's interesting that it's Rishi Sunak who's got so little to say about the cost of living crisis, about the challenges we see in education, about all of the pressures that families are under right now, that he starts talking about all of this.
Richard, I'd like to finish on that about the cost of living crisis and the challenges that face education. A lot of us only see, say, education through our own experiences and through our own eyes, and if we had good time at school and it went well for us, that's good. But someone like me, I mean, I look here and you talk about persistent absence from school, and I'm thinking, well, yeah, somebody must take, you know, a day off every 2 or 3 months or whatever it is. But I'm suspecting you're talking about something much more than that. I mean, this absence, how bad is it?
When we talk about persistent non-attendance, we're talking about children that are missing more than 10% of their time at school. So that is, a big chunk of their education that they're losing out on, and it has a really serious impact on their life chances. We need to sort that out. We need to provide extra help to our children and families. And as you say, we all of us kind of see that ourselves. If we have children at school, we see the impact when I see the impact when I speak to school leaders, when I visit schools. They're grappling with some really complex and difficult challenges, and that cost of living pressure that families are facing has a knock-on effect too, as does insecure housing. That has a really significant impact. And mental health. So many of our children at the moment are struggling with mental health, with anxiety, with their well-being. If I were Secretary of State, I'd be doing a lot more to provide extra support to children to make sure that when they're in school, they're able to make the best of it.
Yeah, that's not even counting crumbling buildings, concrete perforated with holes. But just that whole thing about the pressure that kids are under and how bad things are, it really doesn't look like a good year ahead. And what sort of money is available in the budgets for all this sort of thing? I mean, even if you guys get in, what can you do to fix this?
I mean, the country's in a terrible state, let's be honest. There's a lot that's broken, and we haven't seen growth in our economy for a very long time, which has meant the government hasn't been investing in our public services. We're determined to bring growth back to our economy, but we know right now we could be making immediate change. So we would end the tax breaks that private schools enjoy, and we put that money into more teachers in our classrooms and better mental health support for our children, and much more besides. That's a significant sum of money. The Institute for Fiscal Studies say it's in the region of £1.3 to £1.5 billion a year we could put into our schools. And alongside that, breakfast clubs for all of our primary school children. We'd pay for that by ending the non-dom tax status that the global super rich enjoy. Politics is about the priorities and choices that you make, and I think those tax breaks can't be defended, and the money could be put to better use supporting families during what's a really difficult time.
Shadow Education Secretary, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.
We turn our attention now to the conflict in the Middle East, and the Palestine Red Crescent Society has accused Israeli forces of targeting a humanitarian convoy in Gaza City.
It was 5 trucks carrying life-saving medical supplies when it was hit by gunfire. 2 trucks were damaged. A driver was wounded.
Well, Israel insists that they only deliberately target Hamas terrorists who killed 1,400 people on October the 7th. But fears are growing over the fate of those who were kidnapped by Hamas.
Let's go to Mark White, live from Tel Aviv on this one. And Tel Aviv experienced its own strikes last night, its own missile strikes. So, this conflict far from over.
Yes, and it shows that Hamas still has the capability and the intention to target Israeli civilian communities. Interestingly, though, Eamonn and Isabel, overnight we're getting reports that the commander who has developed many of those rockets that are being launched into Israeli civilian communities was killed by the IDF overnight as they continue to tighten their stranglehold on Gaza City, which of course we know is the stronghold of Hamas. There has been fierce fighting in northern Gaza as those troops pushed their way down to Gaza City, and indeed south of Gaza City as they pushed their way across to the coastline. But having encircled Gaza City, they're now in Gaza City proper, conducting raids, taking out tunnel systems. In fact, the Israeli military say that 14,000 Hamas targets have been struck since the attacks on the 7th of October, and 100 tunnel systems so far have been taken out, but there are many hundreds more of tunnel systems. There are several hundred miles of tunnels that really straddle the north and the south of Gaza, even were told into Egypt itself, that would allow some of these fighters to escape. Another piece of news to bring you, there's quite an important development with the G7 foreign ministers meeting in Tokyo. Their communique has just been released, in which of course they condemn the Hamas attacks and Hamas's use of civilians as human shields and their continuing captivity of these hostages, but they are calling for humanitarian pauses. Interestingly, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says that they are still opposed to any ceasefire. He says those that want an immediate ceasefire need to answer the question of how to address the issue of Hamas being left in place with the ability to continue to attack Israel and its stated aim of carrying out more in the way of 7th of October style attacks, and also of course it's holding on to these 240 odd hostages.
Dilemma it certainly seems at the moment. With that update and all those breaking lines, Mark, we appreciate it. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you. Britain's newsroom at 9:30. You don't have to get me to remind you of that. Everybody's knowing. Sitting on a very squeaky chair.
Beautiful dress.
Thank you very much.
Is it Andrew or Bev? Who's got the squeaky chair?
Not me. Me, I'm afraid. Sorry. I'll keep very still. We've got a lot to talk about today. We're kind of looking a little bit at the reaction to the King's speech yesterday, although, as Andrew was just saying, it didn't really make a massive impact on the front page of the papers, did it?
Pages, they'll be very disappointed at number 10.
Yeah, well, the Sun newspaper, a Tory supporting paper, there's barely a line about...
They're going on about girls allowed getting reunited. Who cares? Sun readers, obviously.
But isn't that because there wasn't a huge amount in it to win any particular votes? There was no big standout.
They have their fate in their own hands.
Yeah.
I mean, a blind man, a galloping horse could see it was as boring as heck, and we've heard it all before anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the trouble. They leak and train it all in advance, so there was no surprise. And I was at a reception the night before with a lot of very senior Tory MPs. They said, he's got something. I know he's got something. And there wasn't. We've got an autumn statement in 2 weeks, which will be an indicator for the budget.
Now, apparently what Hunt has is loads of money, about 90 billion quid up his sleeve. Do you think, can you see him letting some of that go? I mean,
it's going to be pensions, isn't it?
They'll maybe on a personal tax allowances, they'll freeze fuel duty. Maybe they're going to do something really imaginative on inheritance tax. Now that could be a game changer.
And it's just whether the public, whether that is enough, or whether there is so much resentment from the last 3 years, so much sense that nothing is changing. I know that Rishi Sunak is promoting himself as the change candidate, but I don't think that's really landing with people at the moment. Obviously, there was so much in there yesterday about crime and punishment. There was quite a lot about sentencing in there, and we're going to be having a debate this morning about faith in the police.
But you know what?
Whether
I don't
we're losing
believe that
that
either. I mean, every year, I can't tell you a year where they don't say we're going to be tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime, and nothing ever changes until they build more prisons for a start, until they get the judiciary in line. It's not going to change.
We're going to have a good debate as well. Should Disney be cashing in on July the 7th, the worst terror attacks in Britain. They're doing a 4-part drama series. And some of the victims of the terror attacks, particularly those who were in the bus, which was blown up outside the BMA, are deeply hurt, and they think it's too soon. Is it ever when is it ever the right time?
Well,
what do you think?
I think it's part of our life, it's part of our history, and they're entitled to do it.
We've seen this, haven't we, with the pandemic kind of diaries, serialisations of it. You know, a lot of people think too soon, we're still going through it, we're still PTSD, but, you know, if people want to watch it, people are going to make it.
Part of history. And also they're going to be focusing on the wrongful killing by the police of John Paul Charles de Menezes, the young Brazilian lad who had nothing to do with it at all. And they killed him on the tube.
You talk about those TV programmes. These documentaries they've done on Beckham did him and Victoria Power of Good. I've just watched the Colleen Rooney one on Disney+. Excellent. She comes out of it.
You were saying Selena Gomez one, though. She didn't come out of that great.
Well, I had to turn the Selena Gomez off after half an hour because it was just so depressing. I couldn't take it. But Robbie Williams apparently has aired, and not to good reviews.
Yeah, saw that. I haven't seen the document.
No, none of that.
It's probably because he spends the whole time whinging about how terrible his life is with his millions in the bank.
With his menopause.
Yeah, exactly, his menopause.
Laugh about the menopause. The menopause is a real thing. It is a real thing.
It's a real, very minor thing compared to the drop in hormone levels of a female. Ask any obstetrician gynaecologist. We accept that there are a few differences in middle-aged men.
Have you walked a mile in my shoes?
This is a very good discussion. Carry on.
Yeah.
Do you want to come on Britain's News Channel and talk about this?
I'm a believer in the menopause.
Right.
And I think in years to come, I think you will be shamed. You'll look and you'll say, poor Eamonn and Andrew, they struggled into work there every day. No one really bothered with them and they got on with it.
The thing is, the menopause is just a drop in testosterone. Yeah. So whereas we have drop in testosterone, estrogen and progesterone. So it's harder for us.
Do we need HRT, we men? A male version?
Oh, for goodness sake.
It's tough being a man.
Oh,
I think you're doing all right, to be honest. I think men are tending to do OK still.
Right, well, we look forward to your show. Lots of fireworks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, both. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we'll be returning to the Cenotaph in Rochdale.
You're a bigot.
Sticking up for girls.
Well, I'm taking a hot flush. Instantly.
Well, you do that, and we're going to head to the Cenotaph in Rochdale after that. It's currently under police guard. Details in a sec.
Who is it? We're here for the show.
More energy this time!
Welcome to the dinosaur hour. I was married to a therapist.
And you survived?
I thought we were getting Hugh Laurie. Second best. You interviewed Saddam Hussein. What's that like?
I was terrified. I'm playing strip poker with these three.
Oh!
No, thank you.
My CDs need to be put in alphabetical order.
Are you going to be problematic again?
The Dinosaur Hour. Sundays at 9 on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamonn.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamonn and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
tired of the usual focus-tested, pre-prepared Westminster runaround? Well, so am I.
So you want higher taxes?
Is your department to blame for this? Are you rethinking this policy? Every Sunday at 9:30, I'll be sitting down with those in power to get the truth about the issues affecting you. Let's be honest, we've known about the cost pressures of this project for years, not months. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show with personality. On GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News, unlike other broadcasters, isn't obsessed with the London-Westminster bubble. We think there's a nation beyond the M25, and that's why we talk about the issues that matter across the land. Join me on State of the Nation, 8 to 9 o'clock, Monday to Thursday, on GB News. Daisy's listening, and you should too.
Getting some reaction coming in just, with the Cenotaph celebrations and commemorations this weekend. And then we're hearing in Rochdale, Cenotaph defaced there. Let's go to Northwest of England reporter Sophie Reaper for more on this. Sophie?
Well, the weather is really rather terrible here in Rochdale this morning, and as is the atmosphere after the Cenotaph here behind me was vandalised yesterday. Someone has sprayed the words "Free Palestine" on the side. Now, that vandalism has now been removed, but it's been replaced by presence of Greater Manchester Police PCSOs. They're making continual laps of the Cenotaph to make sure that nothing like this happens again ahead of Remembrance Weekend.
OK, Sophie, with that, thanks very much indeed, and thank you for braving the elements to bring us that update there. We will be keeping across that story. Well, I say we will. The channel will be throughout the course of the day. We'll be back bright and early from 6 o'clock tomorrow, but up next it is...
It's Britain's Newsroom. It is with Andrew and Bev. Please enjoy them. Please enjoy the rest of your day. See you soon.
We are talking a lot about the King's speech, which was rather lacklustre and not had a great response. And we're also talking about the big resignation in the Labour Party.
That's right. And of course, there was a lot in there yesterday about crime and punishment. We're going to be having a debate about the police. Do you have faith in the police still? There's been an absolute spike in calls to terror hotlines as well. We're going to be talking about that and this Cenotaph in Rochdale, which has been vandalised, and also looking forward to this weekend. So Mark Rowley has said he can't do anything about the protests that are going to happen.
Of course he did. Metropolitan Police Committee. Biggest, most powerful police copper in the country, and you can't do anything about it.
But I think that's okay.
All going to happen. So stay with us here on Britain's Newsroom.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. Join me, Mark Dolan, Fridays and Saturdays from 9, Sundays from 10. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
There's only 3 people you can trust in life. Your doctor, your lawyer, and your nana.
I'm not sure.
So join me, Nana Aquare, at 3 p.m. every Saturday and Sunday, where we discuss the biggest topics of the weekend. Be ready for battle. Could you be quiet? What is this?
It's my new teeth.
It's your new teeth. I don't bite. Well, not without a good reason. Always honest, always fun. Every weekend at 3 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain.